Kathy and I had been married for 13 years. We were sweethearts since we were 11 years old. I wasn't interested in college, so I got an entry-level job at Harrison Engineering as a draftsman right out of high school. Kathy and I got married a year later, and the next year we were proud parents of twin girls, Sophie and Amelia. Things were tough for the first few years, but we managed our money carefully, and everything seemed to work out. I was still a draftsman, but at a higher grade than when I started. The money was better but still tight. We had saved enough to buy a small house and had 2 good cars. They weren't new, but they weren't junky either. Kathy always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, so she never worked, and we didn't need the extra money, so that was fine with me. We were both healthy and in good shape. Kathy was a little chunkier than when we married, but not much. She was just over 5 feet tall and had dark brown hair with bangs. She looked like a small Marie Osmond. I hadn't changed at all. I played right tackle on the high school football team, so I wasn't on the small side, but I wasn't flabby. Steve Davis moved to Riverdale from Willowville about 18 months ago and got a job at Harrison Engineering as a surveyor. Mike and I used to play football against each other, and we became immediate friends. He married his high school sweetheart, a redhead named Laura. Laura and Kathy became instant friends. They didn't have any children yet, but they were perfect babysitters when we weren't at work. Mike and I enjoyed each other's company as a pleasant break away from the wives. Of course, Kathy and Laura did the same thing, shopping together, going to parties, and attending club meetings while Mike and I watched the girls and the TV. Laura also got a job as a secretary at Brighton Industries just outside of town. I started noticing things about 8 months ago. There used to be one PDA meeting every month, and now there was one every week. Laura didn't have any kids, but she always went to the meetings with Kathy. The frequency of Tupperware and Magic Chef parties seemed to increase monthly, but they never bought anything. They joined a book club, but never seemed to find time to read. On weekends, they would go shopping for hours, but buy very little. Kathy's collection of fancy underwear seemed to be growing, but I never got to enjoy any. It started to eat at me. I never mentioned anything to Mike because he seemed oblivious to it. I didn't want to cause trouble if there was nothing going on. About an hour after I put the girls to bed, Kathy came home from some basket party. She took a shower before Laura picked her up, and as soon as she got home, she took another one. That seemed odd to me. While she was in the shower, I did a quick hamper check and found a set of black lace underwear. Now, who would wear black lace underwear to a basket party? I'm not in the habit of checking my wife's panties, but I did tonight and found the crotch damp and sticky. I put them in my pocket. I have never gone through my wife's purse or wallet until tonight. The only thing I was really interested in was her cell phone. Apparently, she felt pretty certain I wouldn't snoop because she hadn't deleted any calls for the last week. Most of the calls were to Laura, but a large number of incoming and outgoing calls were to KC, KH, and KW. Of course, I had no idea who they were, but quickly deduced that the C stood for cell, the H for home, and the W probably for work. I checked her address book, and Laura also had 3 numbers listed: Laura C, Laura H, and Laura W. I was amazed at how well organized my wife kept her phone. I looked at Laura's work number and noticed it had an extension. I looked at the number for KW, and it was the same as Laura's but with a different extension. It wasn't hard to figure out that Kathy had been calling and getting calls from someone who worked with Laura. It also wasn't hard to figure out that Laura must have introduced Kathy and the mysterious K. Brighton Industries was closed now, so I took Kathy's phone and called the KW number. Hello, you have reached the desk of Mark Thompson. I am not at my desk right now, but if you leave your name and number, I will get back to you as soon as I can. I hung up right after the beep. That was too easy. David, are you coming to bed? Kathy poked her head around the doorway. I'm near the end of this book. It'll be up as soon as I finish it, if I don't fall asleep on the couch. Of course, I had every intention of sleeping on the couch. It was a restless night. I kept trying to figure out what I had done wrong or what I could have done differently. It was a terrible waste of time and mental effort. Every time I redirected my thoughts to what I should be doing, they kept going back to what I should have done. I kept looking at the clock, and it wasn't moving. All I knew for sure was that I wasn't going to accept any guilt for what happened or what was going to happen. I awoke to the sounds of my 2 little angels getting their breakfast. Kathy encouraged them to take care of themselves rather than be waited on. It was a good idea and seemed to work. I stretched and scratched as my wife entered the room. You better hurry, David, or you'll be late for work. No problem. I'm not going to work today. Why? You never miss work. Too many personal problems. I yawned and staggered towards the bathroom. I needed a shower. Kathy looked a little perplexed. When I got back, the girls had already left for school. I got a cup of coffee and sat across the table from my wife. Reluctantly, she looked up at me, as if anticipating something but not knowing what. Tell me about your affair. I don't feel like beating around the bush, but I pretty much know you are not just going to open up and bare your soul. Get serious, David. Is this why you've been moping around? Do you really think I'm cheating on you? Yes. Now tell me about your affair. We've been married for 13 years, David. Why would you even think such a thing? Kathy, I have things to do today, and I have no intention of sitting here playing games with you. I will ask you one more time, tell me about your affair. My loving wife let out an exasperated sigh and leaned towards me. David, it's all in your head. There's no affair. Well, I'd like to thank you for your honesty, but I can't now, can I? She leaned back in her chair and sipped her coffee as if she had taken control of the situation. Can you answer a few easy questions for me? Yes, David, of course. Would you like to know why you go to PDA meetings every week when the secretary of the PDA says they only have monthly meetings, and you haven't been to any for 6 months? I'm not sure what you're talking about. She was a little less you. You and Laura go to non-existing PDA meetings every Tuesday. Now, why would you lie about something like that? Kathy struggled with the question for a moment, and then came up with an answer. I'm truly sorry, David. Tuesday is ladies' night at Rosie's Cantina, and Laura and I have been going for the two-for-one margaritas. We didn't want you and Mike to think we were messing around, so we didn't tell you. It was a mistake, and I'm sorry. From now on, we will tell you. Nice try, Kathy. You know, of course, I will be checking that out. I'm sure Laura will back you up, but how about the people at Rosie's? David, you're making more out of this than it is. When you go out to your little Tupperware parties and such, why do you take a shower before you go in another one when you come home? She took her time again. A lot of the women smoke at those parties. When I get home, I want to get the smell out of my hair. It's not a big deal, David. Why do you wear fancy underwear to go to these parties? You never wear the sexy stuff for me, except when it's a special night. Every evening you spend with these housewives, you wear your best. Why? I don't have a good answer for that. I just want to feel dressed up when I go out sometimes. I was starting to get fed up with her lies. It was time to end it. I was mad, and it was difficult to control. These are the panties you wore last night. I tossed them on the table. The crotch was damp when you came home and covered with something sticky. I know what it is, and I know it isn't mine. Don't try and tell me you have a yeast infection, or I swear I will hit you. Kathy squirmed in her chair, trying not to look at me. No quick answers seemed to be coming. Damn it, Kathy. Why did you come home wearing stained panties last night? I want an answer. Stop it, David. Just stop it. I can't take any more of this. We've been married for 13 years. How can you treat me this way? The steady stream of lies and constant denial finally got to me. With all the force I could muster, I heaved my half-filled coffee cup across the room, shattering the front of the microwave oven. There was no doubt this time that I got Kathy's attention. I had never seen that expression on her face before because she had never seen me mad before. Leaning across the table, I looked directly at her and spoke louder than I had before. Who the hell is Mark Thompson? She pushed herself out of the chair and backed up to the sink, trying to get away from me. For the last goddamn time. Who the hell is Mark Thompson? A friend. Just a friend. She was scared to death as the words came out of her mouth. Did you have sex with him? Yes. Yes, I had sex with him. Did you have sex with him last night? Yes. Yes, I did. Stop this, David. Please stop this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just stop, please. She was standing by the sink, crying like crazy. I got a cup from the cabinet and poured myself fresh coffee. As I started to sit down, Kathy's cell phone rang. Her eyes darted from me to the phone and back to me. It's from Kevin. I think we better answer it. I pushed the speaker option and answered the call. Good morning, Sugar. I just got to work and saw that you tried to call me at my work number last night. Did you leave something at the house? Kathy, or should I say Sugar, seemed mortified. There was a moment of silence. "Kathy, are you there? Is something wrong?" She looked at me with a petrified expression. I nodded at her to answer. Kevin. She hesitated. "Kevin, my husband is here. He knows about us. He has the phone on speaker." He didn't hang up, but he didn't answer either. I felt obligated to let him off the hook. "Kevin, good buddy, I have a few things I have to do this morning, but I promise to come see you this afternoon. Maybe you should put 911 on your speed dial." I ended the call and put the phone back in my pocket. Kathy just stood by the sink in her bathrobe, shaking. "I have to go now. I have one more question. What is the name of the guy Abigail is seeing?" "David." "No. Please don't make me." The second cup flew across the room and smashed into the tile wall behind the sink. She jumped back and couldn't talk fast enough. "Calvin, Derek Young. I will be back this afternoon. Have all of your things moved out before then. My mother will stay with the girls until we can make other arrangements. Anything you can't get into your car, I will deliver for you. Let my mother know where you will be. Don't call me." She didn't move or say another thing as I walked out the door. Of course, I had no idea what to do next. I decided to go by the office and see Mike. I thought of him as a friend and felt he should know what was going on. It was pretty easy to figure out that Abigail met Calvin at work and got to be friends with him. Kevin was probably a friend of Calvin's who needed a date. Maybe I was oversimplifying it a little, but I felt it was close enough. Mike wasn't in the office. He was out at a site setting some stakes or something like that. I called him on his cell. "Mike, I hate to bother you, but I have bad news." "Is somebody hurt?" "Not yet, but they are going to be." "What the hell are you talking about, David?" "Kathy and Abigail have gotten themselves a couple of boyfriends on all those nights they were supposed to be going to meetings and Tupperware parties. They were really getting together with them." "Are you sure?" "I don't believe you, David. It sounds like some kind of joke. Ask Abigail about a guy named Derek Young. He works at Logan with her. I think she introduced Kathy to another guy from there also." "Are you sure?" "Damn it, David. I know Derek Young. We were in the same graduating class." "How about a guy named Mark Thompson?" "Yeah, him too. Tall, skinny fellow." "David, I figure that Kathy is going to give Abigail a heads up as soon as she can. Kathy gave me a whole line of crap this morning before I pinned her down. I'm sure you'll get the same runaround from Abigail." Mike hung up the phone, and I went to personnel to request a short vacation. I didn't feel like working right now. It only took 10 minutes to shift the work I had ongoing to another draftsman. About that time, Kathy's cell phone rang. Caller ID showed it was Abigail. "Kathy, what the hell is going on? I just got a call from Mike. He is coming to the office. I think somebody told him something." I didn't answer her. "Kathy, are you there? This is not a good time to be playing games." "Hi, Abigail, this is David. I had to borrow Kathy's cell phone this morning. Mine was dead." "What are you talking about, Abigail? What exactly did somebody tell Mike?" "I couldn't help myself. I felt mean and nasty at that moment. I'm sorry, David. I thought I was calling Kathy. We'll try and get her at home. I don't think you should bother her right now. She is really busy getting all her stuff packed. She doesn't have time to chat." "What do you mean by getting her stuff packed?" "She is going to be moving back in with her parents for a while." The pause at the other end of the line was hilarious. I was smiling as I imagined all the scenarios going through Abigail's head. "I think it might be more important for you to tell Calvin that Mike is on the way over. He could probably use the head start." "Oh God. No. This can't be happening. No. She hung up on me. The nerve of that woman. We only had one credit card, so canceling it was no problem. We also had an ATM debit card. It took me 5 minutes to change the PIN number. I had no idea what to do with the checking account, so I just ignored it for now. I needed it to pay the utilities and other bills anyway. I was just hoping Kathy did not take any checks with her." The cell phone rang again, but this time it was mine. Mike had chased Derek Young out of the Logan building and caught him in the parking lot. He was in jail and wanted me to tell his brother in Willowville to come up and post bail for him. I called his brother. There was nothing else I could do for Mike, so I went to Subway. After lunch, I stopped by to see my mom and dad. I explained everything to them. Mom was more than willing to watch the girls for a while. During the week, she would stay at my place, and on the weekends, the twins would stay with them. Now it was time to visit Mark Thompson. The guys in the drafting department at Logan couldn't wait to tell me about Mike's visit that morning. The drafting department overlooks the parking lot, and they saw all the action. Mike caught Calvin before he could reach his BMW. He threw him over the hood of one of the cars and began smashing his face. The security guards followed them out and tried to pull Mike off with no success. Finally, one of them hit Mike in the neck with a taser. He was still out when they stuck him in the police car. They had to haul Calvin away in an EMT vehicle. One of the guys showed me the cubicle where Mark Thompson worked. It was empty. Seems like old Kevin suddenly quit this morning. We went by Abigail's desk, and she was not there either, but it looked as if she still worked there. 10 minutes later, I had Kevin's home address and was headed for the parking lot. It was a small ranch house with no garage. There was a white Lexus in the driveway with the trunk and back doors open. As I walked up to the door, Mark Thompson was coming out with an armload of clothing. He dropped everything and rushed back into the house as soon as he saw me. I ran after him but stumbled over the stuff he dropped and managed to see him going out the back as I entered. I had to laugh at his reaction. Hell, I wasn't like Mike. I was a nice guy. It looked like the type of place that was rented fully furnished. That's why he didn't have a truck. In another 10 minutes, he would have been done and out of town. I was looking forward to having a chat with Kevin, but didn't feel like chasing him to do it. I looked around the room for anything interesting and got a few nice surprises. The first thing I picked up was his cell phone. It was on a desk in the living room beside a folder containing his passport and some personal papers. On the dining room table was a nice little laptop computer. I couldn't find anything else, so I gathered up the few goodies that I had and left. I didn't want to do anything that could be considered criminal, so I resisted the impulse to trash his car. It was beautiful. I imagined that taking items from the house was a crime, but hell, he left the door open, and anybody could have picked them up. Unable to fully control myself, I let the air out of just one of his tires. He would have to empty the trunk to get to the spare, and I was sure he would be doing it with one eye on the street, looking for me. I'll get him later. He got the message. I swung by the jail to see Mike. His brother was there, and they were busy doing legal stuff, so I just waved at him and smiled. It looked like he had everything under control. Mom was already at the house and had supper started. We chatted a little, and then I took the stuff I picked up at Kevin's into the den where I kept my computer. Before I could get a look at anything, Sophie and Amelia got home from school. I decided it would be better to tell them what was going on before they asked. I didn't get the chance. Hi, Dad. What's Nana doing here? Where's Mom? Sophie beat me to the punch. Your mom and I have decided to take a little break from each other. She will be staying at her parents' place for a while. Amelia started smiling, and Sophie rolled her eyes and moaned. I win, I win. I told you so. Amelia was gloating about something, and her sister was frowning. What's going on? What is so funny? Amelia volunteered to explain. Sophie and I had a bet. I said that Mom was cheating on you, and she said it would never happen. It looks like I won. I never said anything about your mother cheating. We are not stupid, Dad, and don't treat us like children. We know what is going on. I just didn't want to admit it. Amelia is right. Mom is cheating on you. How did you know this? I just found out. You are a little slow, Dad, and a little too trusting. Amelia put her arm around my shoulder. It felt odd. A 13-year-old girl trying to comfort her father. One Saturday when Mom and Laura said they were going shopping at King of Prussia, Mom wouldn't let Amelia and I go along. She said it was a grown-up shopping day, and she would make it up to us later. When we got to school on Monday, a couple of kids said they saw her with a guy at Evergreen Park. We called them liars, but one of the girls had a cell phone picture. It seemed pretty cut and dry. I thought there must be an explanation, but Amelia said she was cheating. Why didn't you say something to me? They both just shrugged. A couple weeks later, Tracy Mercer's parents saw Laura, Mom, and two guys at TGI Fridays in Allentown. They told Tracy about it when they got home. I sat there dumbfounded. Thank goodness Nana called us for supper. We didn't discuss the problem during dinner, and I excused myself before dessert came. Fortunately, the twins decided to drop the subject for the rest of the night. I was relieved. I had just started to look through Kevin's laptop when his cell phone rang. It was a text message. DK for snafu, LYJ Dirk, sorry for the problems, love, Kathy. I am not the world's greatest at text messaging. In fact, I am pretty bad, but I had no trouble reading this one. It came from Laura's cell phone. which meant that Laura and Kathy were together. I couldn't resist the temptation. TJ, thanks a lot, David. Now she knew that I had Kevin's cell phone. I spent the next couple of hours looking through files and folders on Kevin's computer. There were no emails between Kathy and Kevin, but there were a few between Kevin and some old friends in Willowville that were interesting. I was astonished by what I read and definitely did not like it. Kathy and I had been together almost our whole lives, and now I found out that I never really knew her. She seemed to have bonded better with Kevin in less than a year than she did with me in almost 20. While I was replacing the printer cartridge, I noticed that I was crying. That is not something that I normally do. She hurt me with her cheating, and now I felt salt in the wounds. Maybe it was from my tears. I printed out several emails and a dozen pictures. I would have done more photos, but I ran out of the expensive paper. There were no pornographic pictures, or even anything racy. They were all fit for mixed company. Sophie stuck her nose in the door and asked if she could call her mother. I didn't feel that I could refuse. My mother was with the twins while they talked to Kathy and overheard everything. She wasn't eavesdropping, but it appeared that the girls weren't trying to hide anything. Mom told me later that they did not cut Kathy any slack and blamed the entire problem on her. The conversation lasted less than 5 minutes. The emails were extremely interesting. Kevin had applied for and was hired as an engineer for an alternative power project in Spain. His starting date was in 6 weeks. Apparently, he had not given notice at Logan that he was leaving. I'm sure that Laura knew, but nobody else there mentioned it. He had all the papers ready for the trip, except I had his passport. I am sure he could get a replacement, but he better hurry if he wanted to make his start date. I guess he could always go to the police and report that I took it, but I didn't think he would do that. He hadn't made any plane reservations yet. One of the emails to a close friend explained a lot of things. Kathy was planning on getting a divorce after she joined Kevin in Spain. She realized that I would never allow her to take the girls out of the country, so she was going to have me declared an unfit father. The letter didn't go into a lot of detail as to how she was going to accomplish this, but indicated that it would be severe enough to deny visitation rights with the twins or custody. Now that was downright mean. Kevin was the one writing this letter, so it was all hearsay. I would have liked to have something original from Kathy describing it, but I had to make do with what I had. I printed out several copies of this letter. Mom was falling asleep watching Leno, so I sent her up to her bedroom. The girls were already in bed. I fell asleep on the couch with 4 empty beer bottles on the coffee table. I woke up to the smell of fresh coffee and bacon. Mom always put out a good breakfast. The girls were finishing their cereal when I made it to the table. I had to endure a few good-natured digs before I could get started on my eggs. The conversation was light until it was time for the bus. Girls, I am afraid that your mother is going to try and separate us. She is planning on having me identified as an unfit parent so that she can have you all to herself. I have no problem with shared custody if that will make the two of you happy, but I will not give up my right to see you and be with you. I don't want you to have to choose sides, but I want you to know what is going on. Be careful and don't listen to any lies. Dad, we are smarter than you think. Don't worry about anything. We love Mom, but we are not going to let her screw you or us. Amelia was smiling, and Sophie gave me a thumbs up as they walked out the door. Mom filled my cup and sat down with one of her own. Relax, David. Everybody is on your side. After showering and shaving, I put on some clothes that were a little better than I normally wear. I felt a little odd when I left the house because I had 3 cell phones with me. I made a mental note to get a charger for the cell phone that I got from Kevin. I probably wouldn't need it, but I'd rather be prepared. I signed in at the Family Services office and waited for a caseworker to call me. I was embarrassed when I finally got called because I happened to know the lady who came out to help me. David Terrell, I haven't seen you in over 10 years. What have you been up to? Jody Mitchell was easy to remember. In high school, she was one of the goth girls. The goths had their own little group and stuck together. They were ostracized by most of the other kids, especially the jocks, including me. She looked normal now, but I would always remember her by her pink-streaked hair, black lipstick, and dark eye makeup. The funny thing about the goths was that you could never tell if they were into drugs, sexual deviations, or witchcraft. As far as Jody was concerned, it was probably none of those, but you always believed the most outrageous. The nameplate on her desk read J. Mitchell, so I assumed she never married. 12 years ago, I could understand that, But today she looked different. David, what can I do for you? My train of thought was broken by her question. I found myself stammering a little. You look great, Jody. She laughed at my awkwardness. Do you mean compared to what I used to look like? Now I was embarrassed, I guess, but I didn't mean to imply anything. Relax, David. I was halfway through college when I realized I was smart enough to face the world as who I was without the fake facade. I've been what you would call normal for almost 10 years. I'm a lot more comfortable with normal than before. Damn it, but that sounds patronizing. I have a hard time keeping my foot out of my mouth. You will have to excuse me. Forget it. Now, why are you here? Before we start, I need to ask you a question. Do you have a file or report on me? Anything at all? Her fingers danced across the keys like a piano player. Nothing here, David. You. Did marry Kathy Wilcox? Is that correct? Yes. Nothing under her name either. It looks like the two of you are feeding your kids and not beating them. You do have kids, right? Yeah. We have 13-year-old twin girls, Sophie and Amelia. Okay. Now can we get down to the problem that brought you here? Jody, this is a little far-fetched, and I know it might seem hard to believe, but my wife is planning on leaving me and wants to take the girls with her. It's not hard to believe, David. We see it all the time. Doesn't she have to have cause to do something like that? Usually, when the mother comes to us, she has documentation or something to prove the accusation. You just checked, and there is nothing there now, right? That's right, David. But how do I know you are not setting me up because you did something and she hasn't gotten around to reporting it yet? Maybe she is getting medical information or police reports before she comes to our office. Just because we aren't showing anything in our computer doesn't mean you didn't do anything. What you are saying is that I can't win. No, I'm not saying that. Why do you think she is going to do something like this? I had no intention of showing anyone the email that Kevin had sent, but now I felt that I had no choice. I had to ask myself why I made the copies if I wasn't intending on giving them to anybody. I slid one across the desk to Jody. Where did you get this? I took it off a computer that I obtained illegally. I know it can't be used for any legal reason, but it is some sort of proof of what is going on. The word conspiracy comes to mind, but I don't know the legal definition of it. I wanted to talk to you or somebody in this office because I didn't know what to do. I don't know how to protect myself and my daughters from something like this, and I can't afford a lawyer. Jody Mitchell relaxed back into her chair. I watched her and did not blink. She rocked back and forth a few times and leaned towards me. Can you come back tomorrow morning? Yes, fine. I will see you then. Can I keep this copy of the email? I nodded yes and turned to walk out the door. It was nice to see you, David. I smiled, and she smiled back. I forgot the goth girl and saw the new Jody. I didn't know any lawyers, and I didn't know any people who knew lawyers, so I had to pick one out of the telephone book. I knew that she was planning on divorcing me, but under the circumstances, things could change. I didn't want to take that chance. I wasn't sure what our financial picture would look like in the next few days or weeks, so I got the lawyer to quote me a price for the whole package up front, and I paid it in cash. I told him to do it the quickest and easiest way he knew. If she wanted the house, she could have it. With the property depreciation, it was worth less than the mortgage. The other thing I insisted on was joint custody of the twins at a minimum. I would take full custody if he could swing it. I would pay child support but no alimony. On the way to lunch, I got a call from Mike. He needed a place to stay, and of course, I offered to put him up. We met at Subway for a gourmet lunch combo. He had a silly grin on his face when I walked up. I know you can't be that happy. What happened? A friend of mine who works at Community General Hospital gave me a little update on Calvin. Laura went over there to visit him. While she was there, Calvin's wife walked in with her 2 kids. Laura had no idea she was being played. It got so messy that the hospital security people had to escort Laura out. I went by Logan to talk to her, and she was no longer there. She had quit. I guess she must be at home right now, but I'm not sure. Why wasn't his wife living up here with him? I don't know. Why wasn't he going home to his wife and kids on the weekends? I don't know that either. To be honest with you, I don't give a damn. Mike took a week off from work so he could get things straightened out. I didn't know where he was going to sleep since my mom was staying at the house, but we decided we would figure something out. He was going to swing by his place to try and pick up some clothing and his personal stuff just in case Laura was not there. He decided he didn't want to talk to her after all. I was headed for my insurance agent but never made it because the cell phone rang again. David, it's Robert Wilcox. Can you come over to the house for a while so we can try and sort things out? Kathy is a wreck, and her mother isn't helping. Who is going to be there? The three of us and Kathy's sister, Rebecca. I'm not sure what you hope to accomplish, but I'll be there in about 20 minutes. It was a somber group. I took my folder of goodies with me and declined the coffee. Who wants to start? David, Kathy seems to think that you were overreacting a little. She claims that you were raging mad and forced her to say things that were not true in order to calm you down. She claims that she did nothing wrong, and you have no right to throw her out. I got the distinct impression that my dear wife had related a very sanitized version of what happened to her parents. I can understand why she would not want to admit her infidelity to them, but resented the fact that she shifted the blame to me. What do you want me to do, Robert? Prove that she is a liar or admit that I made a mistake? I would just like to see a few facts so we can understand things a little better. What did she tell you about her boyfriend? She claims that she didn't have a boyfriend. She just had a few drinks with some friends that Laura worked with, and that you misinterpreted it. Robert, in the last month, she had over 60 telephone conversations with this casual friend. How many times did she call you and her mother in the last month? They both looked over at Kathy. She looked at her feet instead of at them. Does that sound like a casual friend that she meets occasionally for drinks? No one was speaking as I took out Kevin's cell phone. Rebecca, can you read text messages? This is one that was sent to her casual friend right after I threw her out. Why don't you read it to everyone? Dear Kevin, sorry for the problems. Love, Kathy. Rebecca handed the phone back to me. Does that sound like a casual friend? Kathy had her hands in front of her face. Robert was slowly shaking his head. A couple of weeks ago, Kathy and her friend Laura told everyone they were going shopping at the Sunset Plaza Mall. The twins begged to go along, but their mother said no. Here are a few pictures that were taken on that trip. I handed Robert 6 photos, which he looked at and passed to Patricia and Rebecca. That doesn't look like King of Prussia. That looks like Evergreen Park. Damn it, Kathy. What is going on? Patricia had been quiet up to that point. Kathy, in every picture, you were hanging on to this man's arm for dear life. That is not what you do with friends. It appears that the fellow in these pictures, Kevin, I assume, is far more than a friend. What were you trying to pull here? The tears were flowing slowly and quietly. This was not what she was hoping for. She wasn't expecting the pictures. Here are a few more of the same. I think 2 of them are from the Olive Garden, and one looks like Olive Garden. I have several more. Fortunately, my loving wife has her clothing on in all of them. I think we have seen enough, David. I'm sorry that we had to call you over here for this. Robert seemed upset over the way he was deceived. As I got up, Kathy was leaving the room, crying like a baby. We never got to discuss the stains on her underwear. I guess at that point it was not necessary. Robert walked me to the door. David, I am sorry that we can't undo what has been done, but I guarantee you that it will not be ignored. He shook my hand as I left. Mom and Mike had a rollaway bed set up in the den when I got home. It wasn't actually a den, just a small extra room that I kept the computer in. Mike had a pile of extra clothes that he got from his house stacked up in the corner. Laura wasn't at home when he stopped by. The most interesting thing waiting for me when I got home was the mail. Actually, it wasn't waiting for me, it was for Kathy. A nice official envelope from the passport department. I knew that I was not supposed to open it, but I couldn't help myself. It was, of course, a passport, but more exactly, it was a family passport. The picture was of Kathy and the 2 girls. I remembered when the girls told me that they had a picture taken, but I never imagined it was for this purpose. Of course, there was no passport for me in the envelope. I immediately called Robert and told him to tell Kathy that it had arrived. If she wanted her passport, all she had to do was send Kevin to the house to pick it up. I would only give it to Kevin. Normally, I would have been at work when the mail arrived. I never would have known she got it. Robert informed me that they asked Kathy to find someplace else to stay. They had no idea where she was going to go. It appeared that they were slightly pissed at their daughter. He did promise to tell her about the passport. The supper conversation was interesting and mostly involved the girls. A lady from Family Services came to see us at school today, Sophie said with a coy little smile. Would you like to expand on that a little? Did she speak to you together or separately? Both of us at one time. Her name was Jody. She said the two of you went to high school together. We went to the same high school at the same time, but we weren't together. I got a frown from Amelia for being a smartass. Pay attention, Dad. What did she want to talk to you about? You. All she talked about was you. Sophie and I both agreed that she liked you. You got that from a short conversation? She talked to us for over an hour. We missed Jim and part of geography. They were both talking at the same time, and I was having trouble keeping up. Dinner was interrupted by a phone call from Rebecca. She wanted to talk. I met Kathy's sister at McDonald's. We took a corner table with 2 very hot coffees. David, Kathy asked me to try and explain what was going on. She couldn't do it herself. This might sound stupid, but if I have any questions, how will you answer them? I don't think I can. All I can do is talk and have you listen. I am sure I will get some of it screwed up anyhow because most of it sounded like gibberish when she told it to me. You are setting me up so that you can tell me that you have no answers, just excuses and justifications. I always knew you were smart, David. Let's get it over with. I have other things to do. First, she blames it all on Laura. Laura started cheating on Mike and made it sound exciting and romantic. Kathy said she never had experienced exciting and romantic. All she ever had was you, loving and dependable. When Mark Thompson started at Logan, Laura convinced Kathy to join them for drinks and a few meals out. While they were together, Laura and Calvin would often disappear for a little lovemaking and leave Kathy and Kevin alone. Eventually, they started messing around also, and before long, it was a full-blown affair. Once it started, she couldn't or didn't want to stop it. Kevin had impressed her with his stories of what he did and what he was going to do. She wanted to go with him and share it all. When he asked her to go to Spain, she jumped on it. The big problem was not leaving you but leaving the girls. She knew that you would never let her take them overseas, so she was going to figure out a way to make you look like a bad father. She knows now that it was a mistake. After talking to the girls, she realized that they were closer to you than they were to her. She decided that she would not attempt to take the twins if you agreed to a divorce with no strings attached. Mike told me that Laura had gone back to her parents' house near Oakdale, so he was moving back into his place just until he could sell it or rent it out. He spent the morning at the bank, insurance company, and lawyer's office. He wanted to try and get some money out of Logan, but they had no company policy against fraternization. His lawyer said it would be an uphill battle. He went by the hospital and found out that Calvin was being released. His wife was taking care of the discharge paperwork when she saw Mike. Before he could get away, she cornered him and carefully explained that she was trying to get Calvin to drop the charges against him. He was really surprised when she thanked him for all his help. Apparently, she had been trying to straighten out Calvin for several years with no success. After Mike took off, I just sat on the front porch and drank beer. Mom brought me out a meatloaf sandwich and sat with me for a while. She didn't say anything, but she did have a beer. She said Dad was coming over for supper and would be staying the night. When Jody Mitchell pulled up, Mom went into the house. Jody sat beside me but refused the cold beer I offered. We sat for a few seconds before she spoke. I served the papers on Kathy about an hour ago. She was one pissed-off woman. She is staying with her sister, by the way. I finished the long neck that I had in my hand. I guess that is a good thing, but why do I feel so bad? There is no good thing in cases like this, David, just less bad. I took out another beer, paused, and then put it back in the cooler. Could you stop by and explain all this to the girls? I get along pretty good with them, but no matter how carefully I word things, it will sound like I am dumping on their mother. I am afraid if I do that, I will alienate them in some way. I don't want to do that. How about 7 tonight? I nodded as she got up and walked to her car. She stopped halfway and looked back. That was a good sign, and I smiled. She smiled back. Jody came by that night and spent a long time with Sophie and Amelia. Mike and I were busy going through his house and cleaning out everything that was Laura's or that reminded him of Laura. Jody started to come over to the house several times a week. Pretty soon she was spending as much time with my mom as she was with the girls. I noticed that she was ignoring me. I was comfortable with that but curious. One night after the girls went to bed, she sat down beside me. I felt that I had to talk to her. I didn't get the chance. She spoke first. David, do you have any wine? Well, sort of. My conversation skills still needed work. What does that mean? I don't have anything with a cork in it. I have wine, but it all has screw tops. She seemed to think that was funny. Give me something red, will you? And bring the bottle. Well, the bottle was more like a jug, but she didn't seem to mind. I poured, and we sipped. I finally forced myself to break the ice. I guess the girls are getting a lot from your visits. How long are you going to have to see them? Oh, the twins are fine. They don't need to see me. I come over here to see you. I don't understand. You hardly even talked to me when you were here. I figured that was what you wanted. Not really. I was just afraid that you had some sort of rules against fraternizing with customers. Her soft laugh made me feel more comfortable. I am amazed that you haven't even asked to see my tattoos. Tattoos? What tattoos? It was evident that she was trying to draw me into some sort of frivolous conversation to try and loosen me up. It was a good plan, and I appreciated it. I have 4 of them that I got when I was still in high school. 3 are easy to find, but one of them is more difficult. Are you going to show them to me, or do I have to look for them? It's more fun if you look, but I'll need a little bit more wine if you're going to do that. We both laughed when I filled her glass to the brim. The hunt was far more exciting because we had to keep quiet so that we wouldn't wake the girls. The 4th one was indeed in a very private place, and I ended up admiring it for a long time before she pushed me away. She left before the twins got out of bed, but I had the funny feeling that they knew what happened. I told my telephone book lawyer to finish up the divorce papers and have them delivered. Kathy was going to have to live with what I offered or do it herself. She was still staying with Rebecca when the papers were served. There was no response, and I did not even get a phone call. Several more weeks passed. Things were not going well with my dad. Mom was spending more time there than at my place. Luckily, school was just finishing for the year, so the girls moved in with her for the summer. By the end of the summer, Dad had been moved to an assisted living facility. Mike and I helped Mom get the family house ready to sell, and Mom moved back in with me. Jody had been visiting the girls at Mom's place all summer and spending 3 or 4 nights a week with me. They went on shopping trips and out to eat together, and I was happy for the attention that Sophie and Amelia were getting. At least I wasn't jealous of them anymore. I was pretty sure they knew what was going on between Jody and me. Kathy called the girls about once a week, but the conversations were always short and, according to Mom, seemed stressed most of the time. The twins didn't even tell me that she called. Mike's divorce from Laura was finalized. I had no idea what the status of mine was. He had also decided that he wanted to start his own surveying business and asked me to go in with him. I was a little short on cash to contribute until Mom came to the rescue. When she and Dad ran out of money, Medicare would take over his expenses. Rather than watch it all dwindle away, she felt that I should use it for the business. I believe that she was also thinking of it as an investment in her future. 3 months later, Mike and I had our own little survey business. Luckily, my drafting skills converted over to drawing plots. About a week after school started for the new semester, the twins got a visit from their mother. They thought they were going to the guidance office to see Jody and were both disappointed to see Kathy. They tried their best to be polite and respectful to her, but it still didn't go well. She told them that she loved them both and was sorry that things worked out like they did. She was going to Spain to see the windmills and would send them some postcards. She promised to call them every year on their birthday and send them fabulous Christmas presents. They said she was crying when she left. Kathy never called me or notified me that she was leaving, but her parents showed up at the house the next week. They apologized again for what Kathy did, but did not attempt to defend her or justify her actions. Amelia and Sophie were their only grandchildren, and they wanted to be able to see them. I had no trouble with their request. They said Rebecca was too ashamed to come see me. She was torn between her sister and her parents. 2 months later, my divorce was final. Jody and I went to Olive Garden to celebrate. It was a rare night out without the girls. They didn't seem to mind. In fact, I believe they were glad in a way. We spent the night at the local Holiday Inn. The twins were excited when I got home at 10 the next morning. They didn't say anything but spent the whole day grinning from ear to ear. A year later, the business was doing great, but unfortunately, Dad passed away. Mom expressed an interest in moving to Florida with her sister, but didn't want to leave the girls. The twins felt that Grandma should go. They carefully explained to me that Jody could take her place, even though she couldn't cook as well as my mom. They also insisted that they were old enough for separate rooms. It was an obvious plan and a good one. The girls got birthday cards from their mother, but no phone call. She also sent lots of postcards. All the postcards had Spanish windmills on them. I wasn't sure what the significance of that was. She sent them 2 fancy embroidered dresses for Christmas, but hadn't anticipated the growth spurt that young girls reaching their teen years go through. Neither of them seemed disappointed that the dresses were too small. Brighton Industries became our biggest client. Mike was glad to learn that Calvin was now teaching electronics at the Lebanon County Vocational School. A big come down from his previous position. He was no longer married. Laura remarried and moved to California. Mark Thompson did not last 6 months at his new job. He was now working in the States, but nobody seemed to know where. Mike had contacted his high school alumni association to see if he could find out. My best friend always felt that I let Kevin off too easy. The odd thing was that the girls were still getting postcards with the windmills on them. There was never any information on the cards, just generic sentiments. Robert told me that Kathy called them several times. She was working for a travel agency in Barcelona. She never mentioned Kevin or gave them any information about what had happened between them. Jody and I took a quick trip to Maryland for a quiet marriage. Within a year, she was expecting. Amelia and Sophie were as excited as we were. They were looking forward to having a little goth girl for a sister. I believe that was some sort of private joke between the girls and their new mom. They never let me in on it. Thank you for watching this intense story of betrayal, heartbreak, and recovery. What would you do if you found out about a partner's hidden secrets after so many years together? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories. See you in the next video. How many guys have heard their wives say, "If you love me, you'll let me do this"? I heard those words during what was meant to be a romantic dinner for our 6th anniversary. That's when everything fell apart for me. My beautiful 31-year-old wife, Jessica, dropped a huge surprise on me. She said she wanted to date other men outside our marriage. She was direct and straightforward about it. I had planned a nice dinner at one of our favorite spots, a fancy place with white tablecloths and great wine. I even bought her a diamond bracelet, spending almost $2,000 on it because she had been hinting about it since her last birthday. During the meal, I sensed she was nervous about something. Our usual relaxed conversation felt forced. She looked distracted, her eyes darting around the room as if she were searching for someone. She usually looked me in the eyes when we talked, but tonight, she was looking at the table, her wine glass, just about anywhere but at me. Finally, after we had eaten the main course and were having another glass of wine, she got around to what she really wanted to talk about. "Honey, I need to tell you something that's been bothering me. It's been on my mind for a while now, and I need to do something about it." I stopped and put my wine glass down. "What are you talking about?" The tone of her voice got low, the voice she used when she wanted to talk about something serious. My brain immediately thought she might be ready to start talking about starting a family. We had discussed it several times over the last few years, but decided to delay having children until we had achieved more in our careers and saved a bigger nest egg. Well, we had done that, and I was keen to get on with expanding our family. "Honey, I want to do something that I'm not sure you're going to agree with right now, but it's something I've thought about very carefully, and it's important to me," my wife of 6 years, Jessica, said. "I need to explore my life outside of our relationship. I need some freedom to explore who I am, and through that, I know I'll be a better wife for you." To say I was confused, mystified, upset, and angry would be an understatement. "What the hell are you talking about?" I put my hands on the table, palms down, and looked her square in the eyes. My face had my puzzled look. She avoided looking at me as she replied, "I need to explore other relationships besides you, David. I want your agreement beforehand so you don't get upset and all weird when I do." My blood pressure was starting to rise exponentially, and I could feel the veins in my neck pushing against my shirt collar. "Just what kind of relationships are you talking about, Jessica?" "Well, I suppose they might be with all kinds of people." My confusion increased every second as my breathing became labored. "Could you be a tad more specific, please?" I said with a direct tone, holding my breath. "I think I might want to see some other men." "What the hell are you talking about, Jessica? You want to have an affair, and you want me to agree to it before you run out and have Aussie kisses with other men? Jesus Christ." My voice was rising, and some of the other diners at the restaurant could probably hear what I had just said. "Keep your voice down, honey. There's no need for everyone to hear what we're talking about." I realized she wanted to spring this on me in a public place so I wouldn't scream at her. She ambushed me all right, got me good. I wanted to throw up that expensive supper right then and there. My stomach was in a giant knot. The only thing I could think to say was, why? Why do you want to see other men, Jessica? I think I need the space to explore myself. Explore yourself? What the hell does that mean, Jessica? Are you saying you want to go and have Aussie kisses with other men? Are you leaving me? No, David, I'm not leaving you. There are a lot of reasons why I need to do this, but believe me, I love you very much, and you are my soulmate. I want us to have a family and grow old together, but right now, I need to feel certain things that I'm not feeling, and I want your permission to explore those things. That's all. It would only be for a few months, and then I would be yours and only yours again, David. I promise. This was pretty much the worst possible thing I could imagine. My wife of 6 years had announced during our anniversary dinner that she wanted to explore relationships with other men. She wanted me to sit idly by and agree to it, and then she promised to resume our marriage at some point when she felt fulfilled, as if nothing had happened, but she would be a better wife for having done that. I was stunned, speechless. I had no response. My brain was dead. My lungs couldn't draw air. I stood up carefully, put my napkin on the table, picked up my wine glass, and drank what was left in it. Then I turned and walked out of the restaurant. Honey, where are you going? I don't know, but I think you need to take a cab home. I walked out of the restaurant, found my car, started the engine, put it in gear, and just drove. I had no idea where I was going. My head was splitting open as the pain that started in the back of my head seemed to move to every part of it. I lost track of time and where I was. The next morning, when I woke up in the car, I didn't recognize where I was. I got out of the car, stretched my arms, and yawned. I tried to recall what had happened last night, thinking it was all a bad dream. I needed to take a piss and get a giant cup of coffee. I knew I needed to figure out what to do before I went home. I took a piss in the bushes a few yards from my car, then got back in and started the engine, looking for that coffee. I found a small diner, got some breakfast to go with the coffee, and began thinking about how to approach this problem. I couldn't just let my wife go out and start having Aussie kisses with other men. No, that would be the end of our marriage for sure. Even with what she told me last night, I was beginning to think she wasn't the woman I thought she was. Maybe Shed had a nervous breakdown and was fantasizing about some life disconnected from reality. I didn't know. I'm not a psychiatrist, just a very confused husband. I checked my cell phone and discovered I would turned it off at some point last night. When it turned on, I had several text messages and missed calls from Jessica. She wanted to know where I was, if I was all right, and when I was coming home. At this point, I figured I never wanted to go home, but I knew I had to sometime today. I didn't return her call or text message. Over several cups of coffee and some eggs and bacon, I came up with a rough plan. Time to go home. When I pulled into our driveway, Jessica opened the front door and came out to meet me. Honey, where have you been all night? I was worried sick about you. I thought you had an accident and might be in a ditch somewhere. She tried to kiss me, but I pulled away. Jessica, I'm going to take a shower and get cleaned up. Then you and I are going to talk. We need to talk about your plan of exploring yourself, as you told me last night. I pushed past her and went up to the bedroom to get out of the suit I would spend the night in. I took a long, hot shower and reviewed part of what I wanted to tell her. I wasn't sure how it would go, but I had to do something to see if I still had a wife, or if this was her way of saying goodbye. Maybe this was just a test on her part to see what my commitment was to her. I had no idea what was going on in her head. I thought I loved her. I married her. She even told me she loved me. We had a big wedding and took a trip to Greece to celebrate. I don't think about other women and have not cheated on her, ever. But she doesn't seem to want to do the same. No, sir. Thankfully, we don't have any children. Maybe we wouldn't at all. That would be determined by what would happen in the next days and weeks. After I got into some clean clothes, I went to the kitchen and made myself another cup of coffee and got a notepad and pen. Jessica was in the kitchen, sitting at the island, watching me closely. I tried to look calm, but inside, I was a mess. I got my coffee and sat down. Okay, Jessica, tell me again why you want to have relationships outside our marriage. Honey, I need to feel validation as a woman. I don't feel like my needs are being met right now. I need to find out what my needs are and see if I can find that fulfillment on my own. So, as of now, you don't know what your needs are, and you need to find out your needs. Also, are you leaving me for a while to find out what it is you want? No, honey, I'm not going to leave. I'll stay right here in our home with you. But I need to have my own schedule and do things when I want to do them. When do you want to start your exploration and your new schedule, Jessica? Well, I suppose any time would be fine. Do you agree with letting me do this? No, I don't agree with any of this nonsense, Jessica. When we got married, we told each other that we would be partners and lovers for life. Now you want to go and find other lovers? What the hell am I supposed to think? I think you want out of our marriage. Honey, it's not like that. I need to find a connection that you and I haven't had for a couple of years now. Everything we do is work, work, work. We don't play as much as we used to. I don't feel like you appreciate me the way you did when we got married. Appreciate you? Jesus, everything I do is for you. I've been working my ass off so that we can afford to have a family and all the things we talked about when we got married. This house is almost paid for crying out loud. I was starting to get angry and worked up and had to dial it back a bit. Otherwise, I was going to lose my temper, and that would not work out at all. Are you going to have Aussie kisses with other men? This was the showstopper. So I had to get it right out in the open first before anything else. Honey, I don't know yet what I'll be doing. I might want to have Aussie kisses with someone if it is the right thing to do with the right person. So, you're planning on cheating on me. It's not cheating on you, David. It's not cheating if you know about it. Oh, my blood pressure was skyrocketing at that point, and I had to take a deep breath and exhale slowly in order to stay focused. I see. I waited for a moment and took a long drink of my coffee, wishing it were something a lot stronger. I needed to get a grip on my emotions and get this done. So, let me get this straight, Jessica. You plan to go out and meet other men, date them, and probably have Aussie kisses with them. You also plan to still stay here at home while you do that. Have I got it correct so far? Honey, it's not that simple. It seems pretty simple to me, Jessica. Are you planning for us to do anything together during that time? You are still a married woman, you know? Are we just putting our marriage on hold for a while? Are you thinking that you and I will still be intimate while you do this? Of course, David. We are a family, you and me. I love you very much and want us to continue to be a family. This will just be something that I do from time to time to see what I need from me. Just how often are you going to do this, Jessica? Every weekend? Twice a week? Every night? How much are you going to explore? I don't know just yet, honey. Why are you so concerned about that? Well, I need to work out what it is I'm going to do while you are off meeting, dating, and having Aussie kisses with your new boyfriends. I don't have a boyfriend, honey, at least not yet. I took a deep breath and slowly let it out. I was about to blow a gasket and had to work really hard not to break something just then. Jessica, I want to get some things right in my mind before we leave here today. Have you really made up your mind that this is what you want to do? Have you thought about what this will do to our marriage? Jessica nodded her head, but didn't actually answer my question. I figured she hadn't given a lot of thought to how I might feel about all this. She hadn't thought that I might have opinions about what she wanted to do. And then she said it. If you love me, you'll let me do this. I fired back. If you love me, Jessica, you will not do this. This was my line in the sand. Honey, I've made up my mind that this is what I'm going to do. You can't talk me out of it. There it was. There was the ultimatum that would shape everything in our future. Our marriage would change from this point forward. She hadn't thought it far enough along to see that being unfaithful, even though you're announcing it beforehand, is a marriage breaker. Now my plan had to take shape. Okay, here are my conditions. They are not negotiable. I laid out what she would have to do if she wanted to fool around on me. You will move out while you do this. I will not live in the same house with you while you date and have Aussie kisses with other men. If you thought you were going to bring them here, then you can think again. That is not going to happen. Honey, where am I supposed to live? I suppose you can stay with one of your friends. How about that woman, Linda? From work that you were chummy with. You've been spending a lot of time with her. You told me she was divorced and is alone. Call her and ask her if you can stay with her for a while. If that isn't possible, you can rent a short-term apartment somewhere. You will be responsible for the expenses and utilities and your car payment. Jessica was a teacher, teaching 4th grade at the local elementary school. She made a decent income. I was a forensic auditor for a big firm, making a good income along with annual bonuses. From what she said, I guessed I wasn't giving her everything she needed in our relationship right now. Jessica's head came up, and for the first time, she looked me in the eye. She figured I was giving in, and that she had won the battle. I went on. So, if you want an open marriage, then I suppose I will have to be patient while you have your affairs. Are you going to come home to me at the end of all this, Jessica? Honey, of course, I am. I love you very much. You're my husband. I want us to have a family. And what am I supposed to do while you're out having Aussie kisses with other men? Are you expecting me to be faithful to you? Do you expect me to sit at home and wait for you to get done with your boyfriends and then welcome you with open arms and love when you come back? Is that what you think will happen, Jessica? Have you thought at all, even a little bit, about what this is going to do to me? I want you as my husband, honey, and only you. Whatever I do while I'm away from you for the next little bit will not mean anything after I come home to you. I want you to be my husband and the father of my children. I thought to myself that this was an odd way to show it. She had already accepted the fact that I wasn't going to let her parade her boyfriends into our house and have Aussie kisses under my nose. She figured that was a win for her. She gets to go party with other men without fear of me interfering. Okay, you figure out where you're going to stay and let me know this week. Right now, we need to do some things here to start. I want you to move your clothes and things to the spare bedroom. I'm not sure I can share the same bed with you just now. Your plan is too hurtful. I feel like you're leaving me but just haven't said as much. So you tell me what I should think. Jessica didn't answer me, and I figured she was starting to realize I wasn't going to blindly accept this. She might have been surprised I wanted her out of our bed, but what the hell did she expect? She must have thought me a complete chump to figure I would let her run out and fool around and then believe she'd come home and pretend we were a happy couple and have children and carry on with a normal life. Nope. Jessica was friendly with another teacher, Linda, and I reckon the source of this stupidity might be her. Linda was divorced, teaching 4th grade at the same school. She had been caught by her husband fooling around with several lovers and got booted out 3 years ago. Linda was 37, a good-looking woman with a great body. Her downfall was she liked to spread her legs for any man who smiled at her. I suspected Linda influenced Jessica's desire to explore herself before we had a family. The reality for me was if she explored too much, there wouldn't be a family, at least not with me. The only thing there would be was a divorce. I got up from the table and started to walk away. Is that it, David? You want me to move out? Yeah, that's it for now. Don't get me wrong, Jessica. I don't want you to do this at all. We made a promise of monogamy to each other when we got married. You're planning on breaking that promise. So what do you expect me to do? Do you expect me to sit quietly while you have Aussie kisses with other men? If you want an open marriage, then I suppose I get to do the same. Jessica was speechless, and I left before things escalated to a shouting match. I grabbed my car keys and started to leave the house. Honey, where are you going? I'm not sure right now, but don't forget to move your things to the spare room and start looking for that place to stay. Remember, you don't get to fool around on me in our marriage until you move. Out. I turned and left, shutting the door more forcefully than I usually did. If push came to shove, I was fully prepared to be the one to leave, but since my wife was initiating this affair, she could be the one to be inconvenienced. Besides, I figured Linda was encouraging Jessica to do this, so she could be the one to take her in. I had to put aside my desire to drive to Linda's apartment and punch her in the nose. Monday morning, I was up and left for the office before Jessica got up. I had a lot of work to do on my plan. If things went according to Jessica's intentions, I was not going to tolerate her cheating on me. Since she appeared to have made up her mind to end our marriage, then I had to get to work. I was hurt by the fact that she thought she could fool around outside our marriage and that I was stupid enough to stand by, let her do it, and then pretend it was all good if and when she came home. And what if she comes home with some disease or pregnant or both? Nope, not going to happen. Step 1 was a call to my lawyer. My lawyer was a friend who handled the more mundane business. We needed a lawyer for real estate, wills, that sort of thing. I didn't figure he would handle the divorce work, but would be able to refer me to a lawyer who does. He did. There was a good divorce attorney at the firm, and my meeting with her was scheduled for that afternoon. It was a difficult meeting, but my new lawyer was a skilled litigator and fully aware of the laws in our state. I didn't want to make this a difficult divorce. In fact, I was happy with a 5,050 division of all our assets. Neither one of us had much when we got married, and we both had been working full-time to build on our ability to live comfortably and have a family until now. So, I was happy to split things down the middle. I'm not a completely heartless prick. Also, fighting for assets would only increase the timelines of the divorce. The assets are not worth staring at a cheating wife. The paperwork would be drawn up and then held until I had proof that my wife was indeed fooling around with other men. Until then, this was just a preliminary move on my part. The week was slow to go by. I made a point of spending as little time as possible at home and went out every evening, mostly to the gym to burn off stress. I noticed that Jessica was spending a lot of time with Linda, and she announced on Thursday that she would be staying with her for a couple of weeks until she could find a more suitable place. I knew it would be a convenient place where she could fool around with her boyfriends and not have to worry about being interrupted by me. Linda would likely be entertaining her boyfriends at the same time, so it would be a real party. Jesus, this was messed up. On Saturday, my wife of 6 years and 1 week confirmed her decision to fool around outside our marriage by packing her things in her car and leaving. She stopped just before she left. Honey, I don't want to go. Are you sure we can't work something out so I can stay? I love you a lot and really want our marriage to be better. My God, Jessica. If you loved me at all and wanted our marriage to be better, you would not go through with this. Yes, I want you to stay here at home with me, but I will not allow you to fool around with other men while you're my wife. I love you, but I'm just not going to stand for that. Please come with me to marriage counseling to try to sort out what the problems are. But if you won't do that, then I don't know what else to say. So, go. As she was loading her things in her car, I got in my car and went off to the hardware store to get new locks for the house. I changed 3 locks on the house and changed the security code on the garage door opener. Saturday night and all of Sunday, I sat at home staring at the 4 walls, hoping Jessica would come to her senses and come home. The next week was brutally hard on me. I went to the gym every day that week and took up running again to try to reduce my stress level. By times, I was terribly depressed and wanted to go to her and beg her to come home. Intellectually, I was still having difficulty fathoming the idea that my wife was leaving me to fool around with other men while we stayed married. I felt like a giant failure. Was I that useless that my wife was willing to rub her infidelity in my face? I guess so. I went on the internet to research the psychology of cheating and why spouses cheat on each other. I was amazed to learn that about 40 of all married people cheat on their spouses. I was also amazed to learn that of that group, almost 90 stay in the marriage. Cheating by one or both spouses is most often quietly tolerated by the other partner. Often, there are children to consider, and it is easier for the other spouse to just accept the infidelity if it is discreet and continue as if it were not happening. Wives who cheat, for the most part, say they love their husbands and families, but are looking for excitement outside the marriage excitement they are not getting at home. A lot of the women who have affairs say that home is a lot of work, where the day-to-day grind of keeping a family afloat with all the activities that kids are involved in and the mundane work that occupies their daily lives makes intimacy with their husbands boring. Women want to feel excitement with their lovers who concentrate on them alone and not talk about kids or errands right after being together. Maybe the key to marriage success was to treat your wife like a cheating spouse, but without the divorce part. Just enjoy the time together. Maybe I should go and try to pick up my wife at the club she and Linda go to. People cheat on their spouses for a lot of reasons: lack of intimacy in the relationship, no passion, no connection between the wife and husband anymore, and revenge for the other partner having cheated. Some women have said they cheat on their husbands to save their marriages. I'm not sure about that one, but that's what they have said to researchers who have studied marital cheating. Marriage is complex, and relationships take work. Open marriages, where both spouses know they will have other relationships and partners, seldom ever survive in the long term. Emotional bonds are formed, feelings get hurt eventually, and most will divorce. Polyamorous marriages are equally fraught and complex, especially if there are children to consider. There is always the problem of an STD being introduced into the relationship, so that is a constant threat. My own belief was that monogamy was best in a marriage, and if both partners did not agree with it, then they should not be married. They should look for a different person to be married to or to be in a relationship with. Did I ignore my wife and drive her away? Did I forget to pay enough attention to her while I was doing what I thought I needed to do to build a life for us? Was I wrong? I don't know. I do know that I was unhappy that my wife had left our home to fool around with other men. She was looking for the things that I supposedly didn't give her. I didn't see her strategy as leading to an improvement in our marriage. So the next week went by slowly again. I did not call my wife once, and Jessica only texted me once to ask me to forward her mail to her. She had nothing to say to me that gave any indication she wanted to stay married. It was all business. Clearly, she was getting on with her plan to find a boyfriend, or two to have fun with. I thought about following her from the apartment to wherever she and Linda went to see who she was meeting. I drove by the apartment several times, but didn't stop and decided I couldn't do that to myself. I had to let her make the decision, otherwise, she would never be my wife again. The longer this went on, the less chance there was she was ever coming home to me. The other part of that equation was that the longer she took to come back, the less likely it was that I was going to want her. A month went by, and with little communication between us, Jessica showed up unannounced at the house. When her key didn't work, she rang the doorbell and knocked on the door. I went to the door. Jessica, what brings you here today? Honey, my key doesn't seem to work in the lock. What's going on with that? That's because I changed all the locks, I said with a deadpan expression on my face. Jessica started to come in the house, but I stood in the way to block her. What do you want, Jessica? I came to get a few of my things that I forgot when I moved in with Linda. Again, she didn't come here to see me. It was about her stuff and purely business. She didn't really care about me or what she was doing to me. The hurt I might have been experiencing was not even a consideration for her. I was clearly just getting in her way. Was she that foolish or delusional to think I wouldn't care about her sexual activities with other men and eventually take her back? There are some boxes in the garage with things that are yours that I collected from around the house. Why did you do that? Honey, I'm coming home in a few months, so there's no need to pack all my things. I let her in the house. It was, after all, still half hers. We went to the garage, and she could see there were a dozen or more boxes of things ready for her to take. How long are you going to live with Linda? She has been really great. I'm going to stay with her for a while. I'm sure this will only be for a few more months, and then I will be back and be an even better wife to you. Then we can make a baby or two and be a family. I rolled my eyes at that comment and did an internal grimace. Yeah, right. I wasn't sure just how fooling around with other men would make her a better wife and prepare her to be a mother, but somewhere in her twisted logic, probably implanted by Linda, that is what she wanted to believe. Surely she knew that what she said was nonsense. I had other ideas on the whole business. So, have you found a boyfriend yet? Jessica blushed red at my question. I knew the answer immediately. Linda and I have been out on some dates with guys from the club we go to, but that's all. How's the fun with your new boyfriends? Her face was still red, and she busied herself looking through the boxes for the stuff she wanted. I knew the answer to that question, so I left the garage and went back to the kitchen to have my coffee and read the newspaper. A few minutes later, she came out with a big bag of things and looked around the kitchen. I suppose she was expecting the house to look like a mess without her. It was just the opposite. I had hired a maid service to come in 3 times a week to clean the place, so it looked spotless. She was noticeably disappointed by the lack of clutter. No giant stack of dirty dishes, no pile of empty beer bottles, no mountain of dirty laundry. No, the house was doing just fine, and I was working at keeping myself together so that I didn't lose my mind as I festered on the idea that my wife had left me to fool around with other men. Is there anything else you need, Jessica? I could tell she wanted to find out what was going on here without her. So, honey, have you been okay since I began staying with Linda? I'm fine. I've been busy with work. I'm on the road a lot. Honey, are you getting out at all or just staying home here by yourself? There it was, the great question I expected eventually. What did I say earlier? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Time to drop a small grenade in her basket and see how she handles it. I've been trying to keep busy. I joined a cycling group that meets twice a week for organized rides. We meet at a start point and ride as a group for 40 to 60 miles. It's a lot of fun. I've been meeting lots of new people there. They're a great bunch. We usually go someplace after for a beer and a burger. Riding that far works up your hunger. Between exercising and the stress she was causing me, I had dropped 15 pounds in the last few weeks. Getting lots of exercise was probably the only thing that saved me from a mental breakdown. I made a point of staying away from too much alcohol that would not help me at all. That's nice, she said with a tone that might suggest she was more interested in what I was doing than her response suggested. My takeaway from that was she wanted to know if I was meeting other women. I figured as Jessica drove away from the house, she began to think her plan wasn't working out quite as she had figured. Maybe her loyal husband might just meet another woman and decide he didn't need to stay married to her. Maybe her plan to find a boyfriend to give her the attention her husband had not been giving her might have bigger consequences than she thought. I found out Jessica had been dating 2 guys from the club she and Linda went to and had fun with both of them a few times. But so far, they were not interested in her to the point they wanted to spend quality time with her after a few hours of fun. Both guys were happy to take off from Linda's apartment after they had fun with her. Once they were done, both would tell her they had to go. Both were married and were just out looking for a good time. Jessica was that good time, a pump and dump. At the 2-month point, I knew my marriage was done, and I had to start with the next phase of my plan. Jessica had not contacted me for weeks, so I knew she wasn't thinking about me or our marriage at all. She was doing whatever she wanted and hadn't expressed any interest or intent to come home. If she did, There would be a whole bunch of conditions attached, and even then, I wasn't sure I was going to take her back. And for a good reason beyond what she was doing. I found out she and one of her boyfriends had taken a vacation to the Bahamas during the school break. They had a little getaway to the sun and sand to work on their tans and other things. So if that was her idea of making our marriage stronger through infidelity, well, the crap Linda had been selling to Jessica about what a bad husband I had been and how I had ignored my wife had resonated with Jessica before she decided to abandon our marriage. Now she was sharing a 2-bedroom apartment with her disgruntled divorcee friend, and her reputation among the other teachers and her family was going downhill. When Jessica's mother learned she had gone off to the Caribbean with another man, she called me, asking why we had separated. She probably figured we had been fighting. When I told her that her daughter had left me to fool around with other men, she was stunned and didn't believe me. I told her to talk to Jessica herself and find out the truth. Her mother called her. Jessica, why did you move out from your home? What is going on with you and David? Is he hurting you? No, Mom, he isn't harming me, but he doesn't give me the excitement I need from a man right now. David doesn't make me feel desirable. I need that feeling. I need to feel wanted. I don't feel attractive to him, so I need to feel that from someone else right now. I want to have a bit of fun before David and I start a family. I need to do this right now. Then in a few months, I'll go back to him when he will appreciate me more, and it will all be good. You'll see. Jessica's mother was floored by what she said. Dear, if you fool around with other men, David is not going to want you as a wife. Cheating on him is the best way to end your marriage. Don't you understand that? I know that David loves me, Mom. He understands that I need to do this. He'll go back home in a few months, maybe a year at the most, and then we will have babies. Jessica, dear, you need to wake up and go home now, or there won't be a marriage or a husband to go home to, and there certainly won't be any babies with him. Do you understand me? Mom, I know that David loves me. I know what I'm doing. Even her mother couldn't talk some sense into her. So, in that good for the goose, good for the gander way of thinking, I had decided I was going to see if I was ready for a new life. It was now about 3 months since Jessica left, and it was time I got on with my life. I got up the courage to ask one of the women I cycled with for a date. I just wanted some female companionship and a change from the routine I had been enduring since my wife moved out. My daily routine was work, the gym, cycling, and sleep. Repeat tomorrow. Wait for the nonsense to end. That was it. A part of me wished that Jessica would come to her senses, stop this nonsense, and come home. But that wasn't happening. I had to face the facts. She was not likely coming back, at least not the wife I had married or the woman I thought I knew. I guess she was enjoying her new freedom and finding the excitement and validation as a woman that was missing from our marriage, the things that psychologists say is the motivation for married women to cheat on their husbands. So I tried to get a date without making it look like I was super needy and just hitting on someone. That might be too weird. I know I wanted to get to know the people in my cycling group and have them get to know me before inviting one of the women for a date. I wanted this to not be a pity date. My cycling friends pretty much knew that I was separated from my wife, and I'm sure some might have even known that Jessica was actively dating other men. This was not that big a city, and people know other people, and the juicy gossip gets around eventually. When I asked a woman named Emma out for a drink and a bite to eat, I was surprised when she accepted my invitation. I wanted to go out on Saturday night to a nice place that would be casual and relaxed and not read too much into it. Before we would eat, I had planned for us to go kayaking on the lake near the city. I had kayaked quite a bit a few years ago, so I knew how to do things. I asked Emma if she had kayaked, and while she had not before, I told her it's a lot of fun. She said she would really like to try it, so it was a date. The food and drink would come after the activity. It turned out to be a great time. Emma enjoyed the kayaking. We only went about 10 miles on the water, taking about 3 hours. Then it was off to a nice restaurant for a good plate of food and a drink. I like beer, so I had a steak with some French fries and a good local craft beer. Emma likes white wine and had a pasta dish. Low-key and informal, no pressure. After we finished, we got some ice cream at a stand on the waterfront boardwalk. I drove her home and told her I had a great time. I was going to give her a kiss on the cheek, but she leaned in and planted a kiss on my lips. It was great and unexpected. I didn't want to appear too eager, so I waited until I saw her at the regular Tuesday cycle meetup to arrange another date. She surprised me a bit when she said that when I didn't call her, she thought I didn't have a good time. I was quick to tell Emma that it was just the opposite. I had a great time and really enjoyed what we did, and especially being with her. We made a date for Saturday, this time to play golf. I saw on the internet that if you want someone to be interested in you, there's a fine line about too much texting and calling. Men who text and call women all the time are thought to be too needy, so women will shy away from them when they see that kind of behavior. So, I sent Emma a text on Friday saying I was looking forward to playing golf with her on Saturday and what time I would pick her up if she liked. That gave her the option of meeting me at the golf club if she preferred. She told me to please pick her up, so we set the time for early afternoon. We had a great time on the golf course. Neither one of us will ever be a pro golfer, but we had lots of fun. That night, we ate dinner at my place. We barbecued and had a bottle of wine. After dinner, when it was late, I got ready to drive her home, but she took the car keys from my hand, put them on the kitchen counter, and asked to see the bedroom. The next morning, I woke up to a gorgeous woman with her arm draped over my chest. Emma has dark, luxurious long hair, beautiful green eyes, and flawless skin. She has a tiny scar on her chin from a bicycle accident, but it lends character to her beautiful face. She is tall, about 5'11", and slender. She might weigh 140 pounds soaking wet and is in awesome shape. She works as a nurse at the hospital in the pediatric department. Everything she does says she has compassion for people. She comes across as genuine. She has a certain magnetism about her that attracted me to her as soon as I met her. We had breakfast on my patio, and then the talk turned to me and my plans. Was I going to divorce? That was a touchy subject because I could see where it was going. Emma wanted to know what my plans were before she would invest emotionally in me. That was a reasonable request. What woman wants to spend time getting to know a man who is only going to take back his estranged wife in a few weeks? When I explained to Emma the bizarre way Jessica had explained why she was leaving, her face told me what I had already known. She figured Jessica was not coming back. I think I needed that little nudge to move on to the next part of my plan. Monday morning, I called my lawyer and had her get her investigator on the case. I wanted to know how many men Jessica was having fun with before dropping the divorce papers on her. She was dating a series of guys, mostly married, and they were going back to Linda's apartment to party after leaving various bars and clubs around the city. 2 weeks later, Jessica was served with the divorce petition. That's when the fun began. She drove to the house that night to see me. I answered the doorbell. It was my estranged wife, and she was clutching a large brown envelope. She had a distressed look on her face. Jessica, what brings you here tonight? Honey, a guy delivered these documents to me today. Why did you file for divorce? I told you I would be home soon. I even thought about coming home this week. We can start working on that baby we talked about. I asked her to come in and have a seat in the kitchen. It's a bit late for that, Jessica. I told you when you left that I didn't want you to go, but you went anyway. Honey, I told you I needed to find out who I was and feel good about myself. I had a small laugh. So, do you feel good about yourself? Are you validated enough as a woman? Have you explored your sexuality enough? Have you explored new relationships? Have you met exciting people? Have you had big enough fun? Because it sure looks to me like you have. I have had virtually no communication from you since you left our home. You didn't call me on my birthday. That's because you were fooling around in the Bahamas that week. Your mother called me and wondered why you didn't even call her on Father's Day. Jesus, have you spent the entire time having fun? Honey, I love you very much, and I can see that I might have gone a bit too far. So, I'm coming home today. No, you're not. Honey, what are you talking about? I'm still your wife, and this is still my house too. So I'm coming home today. I'm going back to Linda's place to get my things, and I'll be home in a few hours. No, you're not. Did you read through all the documents in that package you got? At the back, you'll see a judge's order telling you that you are not to come more than 500 feet from this house until the divorce is finalized. So, right now, you're technically in violation of the court order. Now, I'm not going to complain, but you need to leave here, and we can see each other in court to sort out the details. Jessica was beginning to realize that I was serious about our wedding vows, things like love, honor, cherish, faithfulness, and that little part about not fooling around with other men. This house means nothing to me, Jessica. If you want, it's almost paid for, so my half is worth about $160,000. For that small sum, it can be all yours. If you don't want to spend that kind of money, we will sell it and split the proceeds of the sale. It's that simple. But right now, you are not moving back, at least not while I'm here. I ushered her to the door, shut it behind her, and locked it. A month later, we avoided the necessity of a visit to court and quietly settled the divorce. Jessica got half of everything we had. She was, after all, legally entitled to it. The house was sold, and I moved on. Jessica went back to her new routine. I heard through a friend that the school where she taught a public school had counseled her to keep her social life a bit more low-key. Seems that some of the parents knew she was seeing a number of men in the area and were not keen to have her teaching their children. It was mostly the mothers of the kids doing the complaining, and they were more forthright in private about the inappropriate teacher in their kids' school. Some of the fathers of the children might have been her lovers. She was later diagnosed with a sexually transmitted disease, not a deadly one, but one that meant no fun for about a year. That wasn't really a big issue since she was pregnant anyway. Seems that one of her lovers had done the job. She had gotten careless about taking her birth control pill, too much alcohol too often, and she didn't make the men who fooled around with her wear a condom. The father was not identified but looked mysteriously like one of the teachers at her school, a married teacher. My divorce was finalized, and I was free of Jessica. It's now about a year since all the nonsense with Jessica started. I bought a new house, got a promotion at work, and most importantly, Emma and I are living together. We're proud to announce two things. One, we are getting married this summer, and two, we are going to be parents by about Christmas. Thanks for watching. What would you do if your partner asked for an open relationship? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.
Hey, John Miller, I snapped impatiently into the phone as I rushed to finish the latest changes to the design specs I was working on. It was a typical Thursday afternoon at the office. The clients spent the weekend going over the plans and making last-minute changes, and guess who gets to shovel the resulting mess? "Hi, it's me," my wife responded. Her voice sounded a bit strained, but I assumed it was just the stress of her day. "I'm just calling to find out what time you'll be home tonight." Her call was not unusual. Linda liked to keep on top of things. She was the planner for the family and took it as her responsibility for coordinating our busy schedules. "I'm not sure," I mumbled distractedly as I continued to manipulate the CAD program. "Tom handed me a bunch of last-minute changes to the Harris project, and we need to get them to the contractor by tonight. If everything goes right, we should be done in a couple of hours, but don't hold dinner for me. If it gets too late, I'll have Emily order in for us." I sighed petulantly. My boss's penchant for throwing unexpected late nights at me had been the cause of more than a few disagreements between Linda and me. I'm an architect for a firm that specializes in large commercial developments. About 7 years ago, I had been promoted to project manager. It meant a nice salary increase, but it also meant more responsibility and the likelihood of longer hours. There are times like today when I have to drop everything to finish a rush job. Timing can be critical. Any delays in getting the plans to the builders could result in some severe performance penalties to the firm. This could also cause a severe penalty to my bank balance, as my firm did not look kindly on project managers who didn't deliver. The problem was that there was often little or no warning on these rush projects. It didn't help matters that the last few years had been tougher than normal. My team was a victim of its own success. We had successfully pulled off a series of jobs for tough, demanding clients, and as a result, we had gained a reputation for getting the job done. It seemed like every demanding client that came to our firm was now asking specifically that we be assigned to their project. As a result, I had had to deal with a succession of picky clients with lots of last-minute changes. Even when the demands were unreasonable, my boss would expect that they be met. Privately, he would agree that the client was being outrageous, but publicly, he told me to do my job. I guess he was persuaded by the fact that the firm was making the clients pay through the nose for each and every annoyance that they put my team through. So my team was earning great bonuses and lots of respect, but the hours were killing us. I'm the type of guy who likes to spend a lot of time with the family and be involved in my kids' lives. Just that week, I had put my foot down and told my boss that things had to change. The extra hours were affecting team performance, and I was in danger of losing some of my best people if things didn't change. He had reluctantly agreed, and we had set up a meeting to discuss the creation of more reasonable deadlines. I wasn't exactly sure why Linda was so bothered by my overtime. Hell, she put in a ton of hours at her job, too. I never complained, well, not too much. Linda was a financial analyst. I knew that there were going to be times when she had to put in the extra hours. We both knew that the extra hours came with the extra responsibility and the extra money in the paycheck. We had learned to work around it, and we both made sure not to let the job get in the way of our family time. But the carping had been getting worse. "I'm sure Emily will give you anything you want," Linda responded sarcastically. "Try to make it home before midnight. We have things to discuss." I mumbled a hasty goodbye before turning my attention back to the computer. In hindsight, I missed the clues in her tone. I had only given her part of my attention because I needed to get this job done. I was in a rush to finish up and get home. I probably should have paid more attention to what she was saying, or perhaps more importantly, to how she said it. It was only later that I realized that the phone call had been a classic no-win situation. If I had stopped working and taken the time to talk with her, then it would take longer to get the job done, and she would have been pissed because I was even later getting home. But by choosing to hurry through the conversation in an obviously distracted fashion, she felt slighted. No matter which way I had responded, I confirmed her fears about my priorities. It wasn't the best way to start the worst evening of my life. Linda knew I had tuned her out, and she hated to be ignored. All I had done was succeed in getting her angry with me. Hell, I even missed her snipe at Emily. Emily had been hired as my personal assistant right out of college about 4 years ago. Hiring her was one of the best decisions that I'd made when I put my team together. I was a damned good architect, but my managerial skills needed a little help. She had the business and organizational skills that I lacked, and was the one who worked behind the scenes to keep the team running smoothly. Our skills complemented each other perfectly. If it hadn't been for her, I don't think my team would have been half as successful. Unfortunately, Emily had become yet another source of conflict between Linda and myself. Although she had never come out and said it to my face, Linda had dropped enough hints to make me believe that she thought that I had hired Emily strictly because of her looks. Emily was about 27 years old and cute as a button. She hit all my hot buttons. She reminded me a lot of Linda when we first married. Linda had taken one look at Emily 4 years ago and had taken an instant dislike to her. In retrospect, it was obvious that Linda felt threatened by the amount of time that Emily and I spent together, but good old clueless John missed the warning signs. All I saw was the contributions Emily made to the team. Sure, I spent a lot of time with Emily. She was my assistant. She was in and out of my office constantly and was a frequent companion on my visits to the building sites. She was the one who kept me on track. I never considered how it might have looked to Linda. It might not have been an issue, but things had been strained between Linda and me over the last year or two. We both had developed the unfortunate practice of ignoring subjects that would cause arguments. Instead, we let them fester. Linda never accused me of cheating on her, but I think she had her suspicions. As for me, I had stopped mentioning Emily to Linda. I didn't want to give her a reason to get mad. The ironic thing was that I had no interest in Emily. If anything, she was like my little sister. I loved her enthusiasm and energy, but I had very little in common with her, as had been made all too obvious during some of our conversations on longer rides. I'm not going to say I didn't appreciate her beauty, but I didn't dwell on it. Besides, Linda was the only woman that I wanted or needed. I loved Linda and had no desire to find someone else. Frankly, I thought the guys who ran after the young trophy wives were a bunch of fools. I had some friends from the country club who had dumped their wives only to turn up with a pneumatic doll on their arm, and I just shook my head at their stupidity. I couldn't see the point. Even from a distance, I could see the mercenary glint in the girls' faces as they pumped their sugar daddy for all he was worth. As for me, I had a full life with Linda. Even though we had our arguments, we had a good partnership. I wasn't worried about her motivations because we both made a good living. We were together because we wanted to be. She was the one I wanted to grow old with. I finally finished up and sent the revised blueprints off to the contractor around 8 p.m. I stretched and turned off my computer. I walked out of the building with the remainder of the team as we all hurried home to make the most of our shortened evening. By now, I had totally forgotten about Linda's phone call. I just wanted to get home and relax. Luckily, I missed most of the traffic and got home before 9 p.m. I was just in time to kiss my 12-year-old daughter, Sarah, good night, as she headed up to her room. I peeked in on Olivia and gave a wave as I saw she was on her phone. I shook my head in disbelief, 14 years old, and already dependent on her cell phone. I had just made myself a drink and had settled onto the couch to veg out in front of the TV when Linda came in and sat down in the armchair. Linda looked over towards me. This was my first clue that relaxation was not on my agenda. Linda usually sat next to me on the couch so we could cuddle. The only time Linda sat in the armchair was when she had something important to discuss. I sighed to myself and looked over towards her. Her body language was difficult to read. She was obviously nervous about something, but my late return had let her stew for a few hours, so she also exhibited some overtones of anger. "John," she began slowly, "I don't know how to make this any easier, so I'm just going to say it. I want a divorce." I was stunned. Even though we had had some problems, I had no clue that they had gotten this serious. "What?" I sputtered. "You can't be serious. What's going on?" Linda dropped her eyes and wouldn't look at me. I sat there staring at her. Of course, the first thing that my mind did was to examine my behavior to see what might have caused this. All I could think of was Emily. She must have finally decided that I was cheating on her. "Can we talk about this?" I pleaded desperately. "I don't know what you think is happening, but we've been together for 18 years. Shouldn't we try to work things out?" Linda sighed. "I'm sorry, John. My mind is made up. Look, it's nothing you did. We've been drifting apart for years, and I think it would be best for both of us if we just moved on with our lives." After 18 years, I knew Linda pretty well. It was obvious from her body language that she was hiding something, I just didn't know what. I responded heatedly. "Maybe we aren't as close as we used to be, but that's something we could fix if we wanted to. What the hell is really bothering you? What's going on? Do you think I'm running around on you or something?" At my words, Linda flushed and twisted her fingers together. Her own guilt was evident in every pore of her body. It was then that I woke up to what was really happening. "Son of a witch," I swore softly. "You're the one that's screwing around. You're leaving me for some other guy?" Linda's silence was confirmation of my suspicions. I sat there stunned for a moment, wondering what had gone wrong. Never in a million years would I have suspected Linda of cheating. I was confused. A moment ago, I had been desperate to save my marriage. Now, I didn't know if I wanted to save it or if there was anything left to save. All I knew was that I was angry. "Who is it?" I grated out. "I'm sorry, John," Linda said softly. "It just happened. It really wasn't anything that you did. He just swept me off my feet and we want to be together." "Who is it?" I interrupted harshly. I really didn't want to hear her excuses. "Brian Carter," she whispered. Brian Carter was a loudmouth a-hole that worked selling securities for Linda's firm. He had been there about 6 years. I had met him and his wife a few times at parties, and he was not a person that I cared for. In my opinion, he was all flash and no substance. I didn't think that he had a genuine bone in his body. "Carter? You're leaving me for that scum bucket?" I exclaimed in disbelief. "I don't believe it." "Wait, he's married too. You're destroying his marriage too?" Linda stared at me for a moment as her guilt fought with her anger at my crude attack. Finally, the anger won out and she responded. "Yes, John," she stated heatedly. "Brian Carter. He's leaving his wife too, and we are going to be together. I'm trying to be civil about this and not get into an argument. But you won't let me, will you? I want a divorce because I found someone else." Linda's words hit home like a slap. My emotional outburst subsided and left a cold, calculating rage in its place. Dispassionately, I reviewed my alternatives. If I gave vent to my emotions and raged at her like my monkey brain was demanding, nothing further would be accomplished except a vent. It would be impossible for us to have a meaningful conversation. In the alternative, I could wall myself off and try to approach this as coldly as possible. It was the mental anguish that forced my decision. I could not stand the emotional pain that her revelations had caused. To function, I needed to wall in all my emotions. The only way I could deal with her was to shut her out. I threw a shell around my anger and looked at her dispassionately. "Fine. You want a divorce, you got it. It will save me the effort of doing it myself. Linda's reaction to my words was curious. Even though she had done her best to push me away, my willingness to give in stung her. She was more conflicted than she was letting on. I could sense that at some level, she was not totally committed to the path that she was taking. I sat there musing for a few moments, considering her reaction, half listening to Linda as she started to mouth the usual platitudes that are used at a time like this, the crap that is spouted by someone trying to let someone down gently. You know the routine. She didn't mean to hurt me. She still cares for me, still wants us to be friends, all that happy horse shit. I had no interest in hearing it, and I don't think either of us really believed a word of it. So I kind of zoned off into my own thoughts for a few minutes while I tried to make sense of what had just happened. It was only natural that it took me a moment to come back into focus when she nervously moved on to a new topic. As I mentally reviewed what she had said, I was sure I had missed something important. "What did you say?" I asked incredulously. Linda looked at me in exasperation. "I said that we need to figure out what we are going to do. I know I sprung this on you suddenly, so I don't mind if you move into the guest room for a few days while you find a place to live." I couldn't believe it. Of all the nerve. She cheats on me, tells me she wants a divorce and expects me to move out? It wasn't going to happen. "What do you take me for, an idiot?" "I don't think so," I blurted out. "I'm not going anywhere. Why should I leave? You're the one that's asking for the divorce, not me." Linda looked stunned. I don't think she expected me to challenge her, but I laughed bitterly and interrupted her. "Did you honestly expect me to move out? Tell me, what was your plan?" I mocked. "Was Brian going to move in and take my place?" Linda's gasp told me that I was close to the mark. "Like hell," I grated. "This is my house, and no a-hole is coming in here to take my place. You want to leave me for him? Good riddance. I'm not going to stop you. But I haven't done anything to deserve this, and I'm not going to walk away with my tail between my legs. You're the one that screwed up this marriage, so you pay the price, not me." I glared at her. My rage was beginning to resurface. "Get the hell out. Go live with your damn boyfriend for all I care. As far as I'm concerned, you can get the hell out tonight." Linda sputtered a moment in shock. "But what about the girls? This is their home." I shook my head incredulously. "What about the girls? Now you worry about the girls? I bet you thought about them a lot while you've been screwing around on me. If I'm not going to allow some a-hole to replace me in my house, do you think I'm going to allow you to replace me in their lives? Hell, he has 3 kids of his own that he just walked out on. I'm not going to allow him anywhere near my kids." I stared over at Linda and told her in a cold, deliberate tone, "If you want to take off with your lover, go. There's the door. But the kids stay here with me. You can visit them whenever you want, and maybe you can explain why you destroyed this marriage. I'll never stop you from seeing the kids, but I'm warning you, keep that a hole away from them. Tell you what, Linda, I'll give you a choice just like you wanted to give me. You're welcome to the guest room if you want to stay here with the kids while we bring this train wreck to a conclusion. But it's not going to hurt me in the slightest bit if you get out of my life right now. Make no doubt about it, I'll be damned if I'm going to let you push me out of my house or away from my kids." That was the end of the coherent conversation. She responded angrily, and we quickly degenerated into accusations, yelling, arguing, and name-calling. I was pissed. I couldn't believe that Linda thought so little of me that she could try to walk all over me like that. I don't know where it would have ended up if Olivia hadn't come downstairs to find out what was going on. Seeing her in the doorway, horrified at the scene of her parents engaged in a knockdown, screaming argument, was enough to throw cold water on both Linda and me. I like to think that we were good parents. One look at Olivia was enough to shift our focus. Regardless of our problems, one thing we could still agree on was a desire to avoid putting the kids into the middle of our own private battleground. The only way to break up my fight with Linda was to get away from her. So, with a mumbled comment to Linda about finishing this later, I went over to Olivia and asked her to come upstairs with me so we could talk. If the girls were going to stay with me, it was up to me to break the news. I didn't trust Linda not to tell them that they were moving out with her. Besides, I knew that the news was going to hit them hard. I wanted to tell them about the impending divorce as gently as I could. I led her upstairs and saw Sarah cautiously peek her head out of her bedroom door. She obviously had heard our screaming as well. I waved her over to join us as we went into Olivia's bedroom. I'm not going to go into details on that conversation. Suffice it to say that it was painful for all of us. I tried to walk a fine line. Despite my anger and harsh words downstairs, I knew that the girls needed both parents to love them, so I tried hard not to demonize Linda. I'm sure my anger at her slipped out at times, but I purposefully avoided any discussion of exactly what caused the problem. There was plenty of time to discuss what happened at a future date. The last thing the girls needed at this time was to be forced to choose sides. So when they pressed for details, I merely told them that Linda and I were having problems we couldn't fix, and were going to get a divorce. I tried hard to emphasize that they were not the cause of the problems, and that we both still love them. The girls took the news badly, just as I had expected. It was a shock to all of us. None of us had seen it coming. When Olivia pressed me for reasons, I had to shake my head in confusion. I really didn't want to tell the girls that Linda had found someone else. I just let it go with a comment that I was upset and as confused as they were. In the end, the girls cried themselves to the point of exhaustion, and I left them huddled together on Olivia's bed. I covered them with a bedspread and made my weary way back downstairs. I was thankful that Linda hadn't tried to insert herself into the meeting. She'd get her chance to talk to the girls later. With a heavy heart, I paused at the staircase landing. I dreaded going back into the living room. I really didn't want to fight with her anymore that night, but I had to talk to her. We needed to discuss how our breakup would affect the girls. When I returned to the living room, I saw Linda hastily putting away her cell phone. I assumed that she had been talking to that a-hole Carter, telling him what had happened. It should have infuriated me, but at that time I was too exhausted to care. It was just another sign that the marriage was over. From the blotches around her eyes, it was obvious that she had been crying too. She looked up at me apprehensively as I sat down. It puzzled me for an instant, and then I understood. She was afraid of what I had told the girls. She thought that I had told them about her screwing Carter. She was concerned that I had given in to my anger and had blamed her for everything. She thought that I had taken the opportunity to turn the girls against her. I shook my head in disgust. Jesus Christ, Linda, give me some credit. I might hate you right now, but you're their mother. They need both of us. I'm not going to try to turn the girls against you. My eyes glinted as I leaned forward. Let's set one ground rule now. We're getting divorced, not the kids. I don't want them dragged into the middle of this. I won't trash you to them, and I expect you to do the same. Let's keep this between the two of us and try to keep it as painless as possible for the kids. Linda nodded gratefully. What did you tell them? I just said that we were having troubles and had decided to split up. If you want to tell them what really happened, then be my guest. I don't think they need to know right now, but if you want to confess, I'll leave it up to you. Just don't make me the villain. I grabbed the watered-down remnants of my drink and downed it quickly. I was tempted to get another. Hell, I was tempted to have a bunch, but drowning my sorrows was not my way. I rubbed my neck and looked over at her tiredly. I can't deal with this anymore tonight. All we'll do is get into another argument and wake the kids up. So why don't you get what you need out of the bedroom now? I want to go to bed. I was kind of surprised that I didn't get any more of an argument out of Linda. She slowly nodded and went upstairs. At that time, I really didn't know or care if she was staying or leaving. She came down a few minutes later carrying a small bag. She looked at me sorrowfully. I'll call the girls tomorrow, and I'll let you know when I'm coming by to pick up a few more things. I'm going to go stay with a friend for a few days. I snorted. I assumed that she was heading out to shack up with Carter. She looked like she wanted to say something but turned away and headed quietly out the door. As she opened it, I heard her murmur sadly, "John, I'm truly sorry," but she was gone before I could respond. I stared at the wall for a while and then went to my solitary bed to lie awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what had gone wrong with my life. The next few weeks were hell. To my chagrin, Linda and I rapidly fell into a pattern of sniping and bickering that threatened to spiral out of control. I guess it started the day after Linda left. I had called into work to let them know that I was taking a few personal days off to deal with the crisis. My boss wasn't happy, but he could understand where I was coming from. Tom had gone through a hellacious divorce a few years earlier that had left him understandably bitter. He was a charter member of the Women Are Not to Be Trusted Club and was eager to give me some clues on how to take Linda to the cleaners. He gave me some recommendations on a good, aggressive divorce attorney and suggested that I start to take some steps to protect my assets. The girls had been surprised in the morning to find that their mother was not there, but were mollified by her promise that she would call them. I gave them my promise that we would discuss matters further after school. They wanted to stay home, but I knew that I would be busy, and I didn't want them to sit and obsess over the divorce, so I sent them to school in the hopes that they might be distracted from the situation. Just to be safe, I contacted the school guidance office to advise them of the situation. They recommended a counselor for the girls to meet with if it became necessary. Maybe I was naive. I never even considered the possibility that Linda would try to snatch the girls from my custody. I just didn't think she had it in her. Luckily, it didn't occur to her either. She did pick up the girls from their school, but only so she could talk to them. She even had the courtesy to call me to tell me what she had done so I wouldn't get worried when they did not get home on time. Still, I paced and worried until I saw her car pull up. I was not feeling too charitable towards Linda. During the day, I had learned some new information on what was going on. I had a pretty good idea of what had precipitated her decision, and I was pissed. I had received an unexpected visitor a few hours earlier, Rebecca Carter. Rebecca was Brian's wife. She had come to expose her husband's sordid little affair with Linda. Rebecca had been tracking the two of them for about 3 months and had all sorts of evidence that she wanted to show me. She had managed to get photographs and video of the two of them together. I took note of it, but I declined her offer to see it all. I didn't want to know the grisly details or watch my wife get drilled by Brian Carter. The few pictures she did give me of them kissing were enough to turn my stomach. I didn't need any further evidence of Linda's betrayal. The worst thing, however, was something that was not said. From the beginning of her visit, Rebecca acted like she expected me to know about the affair. When I commented on this, she disclosed the fact that she had confronted the two of them yesterday during lunch. Brian hadn't left her. She had told him to get the hell out. What was worse, she had specifically told Linda that she was going to let me know. Linda knew the jig was up for her, too. Linda knew that Rebecca had a copy of the evidence with my name on it that she was going to get to me as soon as possible. Rebecca's revelation floored me. Now I understood why Linda had asked for the divorce out of the blue. She knew damn well that Rebecca was going to tell me about her affair. She had tried to gain the upper hand by dumping me before I found out. The dishonesty of her actions was unbelievable. It couldn't be viewed as anything but cold-hearted and deceptive. She had tried to manipulate me into leaving the house while hiding her guilt from me. The only thing that confused me is that it just didn't seem to make sense. I had never considered Linda to be that self-centered and conniving. I began to wonder if I had ever really known Linda at all. In any event, while anxiously awaiting Linda's return with the girls, I made my decision. If she could act that callously to me, then I would play hardball too. I'd live up to my promise not to get the girls involved, but in all other respects, it was going to be all-out war. I had decided to take Tom's advice and make her pay in the divorce. In the meantime, I started to look for little ways to annoy and harass Linda. I wanted to pay her back for the aggravation that she had caused me. I'm sure most of you have gone through a tough breakup at some point in your life. You know how easy it is to succumb to the baser part of your nature and fall into an us versus them mentality. You attack your former lover in an effort to ease some of the pain in your heart. You fight over things you don't care about just because you know it will piss off the other side. That is the pattern that Linda and I fell into. Every little attack or slight that I gave to Linda was responded to in kind, and then I retaliated to her actions. We weren't thinking, we were just responding. After all, you had to respond. Doing nothing might be seen as a sign of weakness. In any event, we were acting like the Hatfields and the McCoys. Slowly but surely, our attacks on each other were escalating. We were in a downward spiral that seemed to be heading for a disastrous contested divorce, where everything would be contested, starting with the custody of the girls. That was when Emma stepped in. Emma was the one person I could always count on to support me and give me the advice I needed, whether I wanted to hear it or not. She was my twin sister. Technically, Emma is my cousin, but that doesn't begin to do justice to our relationship. In our minds, we are twins with different mothers. To understand this, you need to know something about our parents. They're a living, breathing human interest story. To make a long story short, our mothers are identical twins who met and fell in love with, you guessed it, another pair of identical twins. Our parents took the twin thing to the extreme. Our moms and dads got married in a joint ceremony, followed by a shared honeymoon. 29 years later, Emma and I were the result. Our moms even managed to conceive at the same time and went into labor within minutes of each other. In my mind's eye, I can just see them in adjoining beds coordinating their contractions. Emma came first. The doctor had just enough time to deliver her and cut the umbilical cord before she had to rush over to catch me as I clawed my way, squalling into the world. Emma's never let me forget that she is about 10 minutes older than I am. For as far back as I can remember, Emma has been part of my life. Emma's family lived on the next street over, and our backyards abutted each other. In practice, we turned the backyard and the two houses into a shared space. It was like having a second home and family. Her parents were my parents and vice versa. I'm pretty sure that our mom switched off on nursing us on occasion. It didn't bother me. I thought I was really lucky to have two moms, Aunt Karen and Uncle Davies. I'm named for my uncle, just like Emma is named for my mother, always treated me like their own child. To this day, I still call Aunt Karen Mom at times. She takes it as a compliment, and Uncle Dave doesn't mind either. I guess it's to be expected. From what I understand, genetically, I was their child, and Emma was the child of my parents. It's no wonder we ended up acting like twins. Emma's house was my second home, and I probably slept there as often as I did in my own house. And when I wasn't at her house, she was at mine. We were inseparable. I'm told that when Emma and I were toddlers, the easiest way to put us down for a nap was to allow us to cuddle up like a pair of puppies. It may seem strange to others, but I grew up with 4 parents in 2 homes. Now, before anyone gets the wrong idea, as far as I know, nothing kinky ever went on between our parents. Spare me the jokes or crude comments about how easy it would have been for our parents to make a mistake and switch off. Trust me, even with identical twins, there are enough differences for family members to be able to tell them apart. We all knew who was who. Similarly, don't even think that Emma and I ever did anything together. Emma was my best friend, and, in all important respects, my twin sister. We had that twin dynamic going full force. Kissing her would be like kissing a female version of me. Incest and narcissism are not kinks that I'm into. Throughout grade and middle school, Emma and I were inseparable. We both took some teasing, but we stuck up for each other. I probably took more lumps defending Emma than for any other reason, and she did the same for me. If a boy or girl was not able to accept both of us as a friend, then the answer was plain: they didn't get either of us. By high school, we had developed some different interests, but we still hung out together more often than not. We ended up joining a loose group of friends that generally hung out together and had fun. It was nice to have someone to watch my back and keep me from getting too stupid. Emma always kept her eye out for me, and I was her protector. Our friends soon learned that we didn't keep secrets from one another. If a boy wanted Emma to know that he liked her, all he needed to do was to tell me. Same thing went for Emma. She hooked me up with most of my girlfriends in high school. After high school, we did go our own ways. Although we talked about going to the same school, our scholarship offers didn't match up, but we did stay in close contact by phone. Emma ended up in medical school where she met her husband, Daniel. They now both work at a family practice in the next suburb from where I am living. I still get together with Emma frequently and talk to her by phone every day. She still serves as my closest confidant. To this day, she is closer to me than my own sister. Naturally, when they hit the fan with Linda, Emma was the first person I called. She commiserated with me and shared my anger at Linda's betrayal. She also provided the counterpoint advice to my boss, Tom, who was urging me to go for Linda's jugular in the divorce. The defining moment came about 4 weeks after Linda left. I had hired the lawyer that Tom had suggested and had met with him a number of times to go over my priorities and concerns. If he was going to represent me in the divorce, he needed to be made aware that my primary concern was the girls. I wanted custody. I was sure that this was going to be one of the biggest areas of conflict between Linda and me. The prognosis he gave to me wasn't good. The local courts were notorious for favoring the mother in custody disputes. It didn't matter if the father was active in the care of the children, or not. If the mother was fit, she was typically awarded custody. It seemed that the best I could hope for was a permissive visitation schedule. The other alternative that he gave me was to get nasty and drag Linda through the mud. My only hope of getting custody was to totally trash Linda. If I wanted to have a shot at getting awarded custody, I would have to make her out to be a total unfit mother. He was suggesting that I sue for divorce based on the affair and put forward every nasty piece of evidence that Rebecca Carter had discovered. The idea was to show that Linda's continuing relationship with Carter would put the girls at risk. He also wanted to allege that Linda had abandoned the girls by leaving the household. In other words, to get any shot at custody, I would have to destroy Linda's relationship with the girls. It was a sign of my desperation and mindset that I did not reject his idea out of hand, but told him that I would think about it. I was having lunch with Emma and gloomily telling her about his ideas. It wasn't that the idea of trashing Linda sounded good. I was uncomfortable with it, but I didn't see a choice. I really didn't want to get the girls involved, but my war with Linda had deteriorated to the point where I needed to fight her on this just because I knew she wanted custody. I wasn't thinking about what was right or wrong anymore, just about how to beat her. Thank God that Emma was there to set me straight. Emma had heard all about my feud with Linda. She had been told about every grievance, big and small, and had heard loving detail about how I had paid Linda back. But my consideration of the custody fight was the last straw. Emma was fed up. "Have you had enough yet?" she asked tartly, looking at me in annoyance. "What do you mean? This vendetta of yours? Don't you think it's time for you to grow up and get over this petty childishness?" I couldn't help it. I put on my best whiny child's voice. She started it. Emma groaned at my sally and grinned in exasperation. "Oh no, not this time. You're not getting off the hook that easy. Look, Junior, I've sat here and heard you cry and moan for the last month about Linda and what she did to you. Well, it's time to grow up and get over it. Stop reacting and start thinking." It wasn't until that point that I realized that Emma was trying to be serious. I had thought she was just kidding me, trying to get my mind off my troubles. Emma looked at me seriously. "John, I know you're angry and you're hurting. You have a right to be. I'm angry with Linda too. But for God's sake, don't let your emotions push you into a corner that you can't get out of. I know it's hard, but you got to think about the future, not the past." I must have looked confused because she continued softly. "Look, just because your marriage is toast, it doesn't mean you have to destroy each other in the divorce. It's not too late to change what your life will be like after the divorce is over. Think about it. How do you want to end up in a few years? Do you really want to end up a bitter bastard like Tom? Do you really want to get to the point where you and Linda are at each other's throats constantly? I hate to tell you this, but that is where you are heading. The way you and Linda are acting, you're almost to the point of no return. You're both letting your anger get to you, and it's causing both of you to play hardball. If it doesn't stop soon, you'll end up hating each other, just like Tom hates his ex. If that happens, the only ones who are going to end up with any money at the end of your divorce are the lawyers. Besides, what about the girls? How is a nasty divorce going to affect them? How often does Tom get to see his kids? I shook my head uneasily. Tom was lucky to see his son and daughter twice a year, and was always complaining about the roadblocks his ex was throwing up to make regular visitations impossible. Emma must have seen the anguish on my face as she went on gently, "Do you want that to happen to you? Hell, would you really want to do that to Linda either? If you trash Linda in the divorce the way this lawyer is asking you to, the only guaranteed result is that someone's going to get hurt badly, and the most likely candidates are Sarah and Olivia. There's no way that you would be able to keep them from finding out about what happened. A fight is going to force them to choose sides. They are going to see you blaming Linda for the divorce, and Linda is going to try to get back at you and make you out to be the villain. There's a good chance that they're going to end up hating someone, and they are going to end up being pawns in this little feud you have going on. It's a now-in situation for everyone. When you told Linda that first night that the girls needed both parents, that might have been the last smart thing you said. Can't you see what you and Linda are doing? This isn't just about you and her. What about Sarah and Olivia? They're going to need both of you in the future." I gazed at Emma. She had hit my weak spot, and she knew it. Accusing me of hurting the kids was the one sure way of getting my attention. As she looked at my reaction, she nodded in satisfaction. She had given voice to the doubts that I had been feeling ever since I left the lawyer's office. "So, what do you want me to do?" I demanded miserably. "Give up and let Linda have custody and hope that she is willing to give me visitation rights? It's a no-win situation." Emma shook her head. "There is another choice, but that a-hole lawyer of yours doesn't see it. All he knows how to do is fight and claw. Daniel's been talking to a friend of his, and he asked if you had considered sharing custody. The courts will go for it if the parties are willing to work together. I think you and Linda have a chance at cooperating, but it's got to start now. Call off the feud before it's too late," she urged. "You need to take the first step and ask for a truce. Maybe if you and Linda sit down and discuss things like adults, you can come up with a solution you both can tolerate. You both love those girls to death, and you both are exceptional parents. If you two can manage to be civil to each other for a few hours, I think you can come to a solution." Emma smiled. "After all, the one thing you two still agree upon is the girls' welfare. If you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for them." I mumbled some comment about thinking about it. Her idea gave me a hope that I hadn't had before, but I didn't want to get too excited until I knew if it was a real possibility. At a minimum, it was worth a call to my lawyer to find out more about shared custody. Emma had given me a lot to think about, so I tried to shift the remainder of our conversation to something innocuous. But Emma wouldn't let me. She wasn't quite done yet in meddling with my life. She had just gotten up a full head of steam. "Now for the rest of it," Emma said. "Emily called the other day. She's worried about you. The girls are worried about you. Hell, even Daniel is worried about you. When are you going to get your head out of your ass and stop moping around? You're getting divorced. So what? Deal with it. It's not the end of the world. You've got to get on with your life. Focus on the future and not the past. You've got to plan ahead," she urged. "Think about the future. Instead of letting this divorce turn you into a bitter wreck like Tom, who can't trust anyone, try to think of the bright side." "What bright side?" I interrupted morosely. "Well, for one thing, if you play your cards right, you'll end up with more than you can imagine," she stated bluntly. I looked at her in amazement. She always could find a way to shock and surprise me, but this one came from left field. Sure, when we were younger, sex and dating had been a frequent topic of conversation. She had supported me in my first feeble attempts to explore the mysteries of the opposite sex. In a way, she had been my mole in the strange and mysterious camp of all things female. She had given me practical advice on the types of things that I could do to attract and keep a girl's attention. I had tried to do the same for her as she tried to understand boys, but we had stopped playing that game by the time we were 17. She had done it again. First, she gives me a well-deserved kick in the ass for playing with my girl's future. Now she's giving me advice for the love life. What was next? Was she going to get back into arranging dates for me? She noted my expression and smiled. "I figured that would get your attention," she said dryly. "You've got to look at this as an opportunity. How many divorcees and widows our age are there at the club? How many guys do you know who thrown away perfectly good marriages for a piece of young tail? They're all just waiting for you. Emma snorted in amusement. Hell, some of them are champing at the bit. As soon as word got out about your split with Linda, I had a couple of my friends ask me about you. Off the top of my head, I can give you half a dozen names of women that would love to comfort you. I must have looked doubtful, because she shook her head in exasperation. Don't you get it? A lot of women are in the same boat you're in. Their husbands cheated, or they got dumped for some trophy wife. A lot of them are just looking for someone that they can relate to, someone who knows what they went through, someone they can trust. You're the answer to their dreams. You are a trustworthy guy who might be in the market for a dependable woman. Not only that, you're in good shape and you're halfway decent looking. She laughed. Give them half a chance and they'll eat you up. I laughed with her, albeit bitterly. Right. I'm a sex god. That's why Linda decided she needed to go open her holes to Brian Carter. You're so full of it, Emma. I bet all your friends are just laughing at the cucked idiot. Emma just shook her head in mock derision. You stupid, stupid man. You were wrong in so many different ways that it's hard to know where to begin. She sighed theatrically. All right, let's start with the thing that obviously seems to be bothering you the most, your pride. Is your ego really that fragile? Do you honestly believe that everyone is going to be laughing at you because Linda screwed around on you? Get over it. Not only don't these women care, half of them know exactly what you are going through. Believe me, they've probably gone through worse self-image problems than you ever will. I hate to bust your bubble, Junior, but chances are sex had nothing to do with why Linda had her affair. Did Linda ever complain about sex? Unlike guys, most women don't have affairs just because they're looking for something strange in the sack. There is usually some other reason that gets the ball rolling, and the sex is a result, not the cause. So don't get all worried about whether Linda left you because you were bad in the sack. This has nothing to do with your ability to make a girl see stars. Hell, if you remembered half of the stuff that I told you about when we were younger, you're better than most guys I've heard about. For what it's worth, I'm almost positive you're better than a self-centered prick like Carter. You may not be a sex god, but who says you have to be? The women that you are going to be interested in are much more interested in what's here. Emma pointed to her head, and here, she pointed to her chest, than what you're packing down here. At this, she pointed to his crotch. You have nothing to worry about. I love you, twin, but sometimes you can be a dunce. What in the hell do you really think that these women are looking for? Do you honestly believe that they're looking for some quick sex? Women our age are looking for more than that. They want someone nice, someone they can feel comfortable being with. They want someone who is interested in them as a whole person, not just as a toy to use and discard. They want a little romance and someone to make them feel better about themselves. You fit the bill on all counts. You're a nice guy, clean, honest, and dependable. You have a good job, and you're usually somewhat intelligent. You can even manage to hold up your end of a conversation. That's why my friends want to meet you. If you turn out to be good in the sack, that's just a bonus, Emma went on intently. No one is going to think less of you because Linda left you. Hell, the hardest part is going to be to keep a date from turning into a trash the X session. If you tell them about it, all they'll think is that Linda was a 304 for cheating on you and a fool for letting you go. And they'd be right, Emma stated bluntly. Linda's a fool, and she's going to figure it out before too long. Her pep talk had raised my spirits a little, and I definitely perked up at her last statement. She noticed and gave an evil little chuckle and leaned forward. Think about it. She was jealous and suspicious of you just for hiring a young assistant. How's she going to deal with a slime bucket that she knows will go out and cheat on his wife? It's only a matter of time before he cheats on her too, and she knows it. She gave you up for a pile of fool's gold. So you see, you don't have to make yourself miserable in the divorce to pay her back. If you really want to make her regret what she did, just go on with your life and be yourself. You can afford to be civil to her because you are set to have your cake and eat it too. You might get to survive this divorce and actually have some fun with your life too. I took a few minutes to think in silence. Then it all came to me. Okay, Emma. I've heard whatever you had to say. I understand all the nice truths and all the welfare for the daughters thing. Now tell me a few things. What happens if my daughters come to know about why we are getting divorced? Hold on, let me rephrase it for you for better clarity. What happens when my daughters come to know about the truth? I repeat, the truth that their mother cheated on their father. Emma was silent. Just as I thought you would not have an answer. Let me tell you what will happen. They will feel bad, they will be sad, but they will know the truth. They're still young for it. But I now definitely want to explain what happened between us. Linda did not just cheat on me. She cheated on the father of her daughters. She walked out on the family, so she deserves what is coming to her. In fact, I'll make sure that all our family members and friends on both sides know the truth. You said that I will end up hating my cheating 304 of a wife. Well, why should I feel different? She cheated on me. Why show sympathy or any fake emotion when you can show your true emotion? Do you want to tell me that a woman has cheated, and now a man has to pretend that he does not hate her? Just like love, hate is a pure emotion. After all that she did to me, she will get my purest of emotions. Besides, I will fight for the custody of my kids. She played, now it's time to pay. Emma was still silent. Now, my last question. You stated that my daughters need their mother. I agree that they need a mother. Is my scum-sucking wife the best option for them just because she gave birth to them, breastfed them, and took care of them till now? Is she the best for them? How do I accept that an immoral, cheating woman who went out of the marriage is a great example for them? What will my daughters learn from her? Cheat, get divorced, take the kids, take money from the ex-husband, and have sex with a new partner. Tell me, who will be a better example? A divorced father who wrecked a cheating woman in court, or a scum-sucking cheating 304 who was in bed with a father of 3? Go ahead, I am waiting for your answer. I still think you should talk to your wife and try to think about the daughters, Emma sighed. Women, are they all that stupid, or is it me who has such bad luck with them? I walked away and went home. The next morning I called my lawyer. I will pick the alternate option that you gave me. We trash Linda and take my daughters. Sure, I'll call you once it's done, was all that he said. Linda was served 5 days later. In the meanwhile, I had shared the evidence with every person who knew us via an email titled Linda's Love. I got a lot of calls from Emma. Did that satisfy your ego? Oh yes, it did. Now that everyone knows her true colors, I am happy. Did you talk to the daughters? Well, I have tried to explain what their mother did, but I could not tell the whole thing. I just told them that their mother wanted to replace me with someone else. What was their reaction? Emma asked. They were angry. They said that they would never let anyone replace me. Did Linda call you after this? Oh yes, she has been calling non-stop. She has even sent me threat messages. Her a-hole lover also called and tried to get nasty with me. I told him to go screw himself, and we both laughed. I'm sorry, I just thought things could work between you two. I was just thinking of the daughters. I did not have any intentions of hurting you, she sighed. I don't get hurt anymore, Emma. I just need to get ready for the fight that is waiting for me in court. A month later, I was in front of the judge. That email you pulled off was not in good faith, Mr. Miller. I do not approve of it. It seems like you wanted to tarnish your wife's image. I was silent. Do you want to say something on that, Mr. Miller? I just wanted the world to know the truth, Your Honor. I hope exposing the truth is not a crime. But trying to share images of people engaged in intimacy is, Judge Parker sneered. All the images shared were blurred at the right places so as not to expose people. The back and forth continued for the next 9 months. Well, my daughters are with me. My wife is free. I am free. I also get to keep my house, at least for the time being. Linda does have visitation rights. I hate it when she comes to pick up the daughters. The daughters hate it too. I try my best to berate her every time she comes home. And just adding to it, I always ensure that I sneak a nasty fart near her when she is near me. 5 months after our divorce, Brian got divorced as well. Rebecca ripped his balls out in the divorce, I mean, not literally. He was broken, thrown out of his house, and now has to pay a hefty alimony and child support. I got to know that Linda and Brian broke off a month later. Brian blamed her for his divorce, and Linda retaliated with violence. If only I could watch. Linda is living in a condo and paying me child support. She has tried on many occasions to reconcile. I shoot her down before she can start.